Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking sports locally and nationally. Join the conversation on our social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome back for another edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He is the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Hello, hello, hello.
And also joining us in studio, he is your coach. He is my coach. He is the senior sports editor of the ODPH, Coach Duffy.
I didn't feel like performing today, but I came in anyway because that's what you got to do. But I'm here, so all right.
We appreciate you, Coach.
Whatever.
The thousands of the ODPH Society appreciate you as well. And we appreciate you listening here as well because, you know, without you, there is no ODPH. So we want to interact with you. We're asking you to jump in the conversation on social media. How do you find out about us? You simple. You go over to OchoDuroParlayHour.com. You join in on Facebook. You join in on Twitter. You join in on Instagram. You can join in on Podchaser. Drop us a 5-star review. We're cool with that. Check out the TeePublic store. You can support us going on there. And so much more. But always remember to use the hashtag ODPH. So let us kick off this sports edition talking about the weekend that was Super Wild Card Weekend in the NFL. Pad, kick us off.
Yeah, so we're going to be going in order the way the games were played. So first we're going to talk about the Saturday games. We're going to start off with a game that I don't really think anybody gave a shit about. Who knows? That was the Buffalo Bills defeating the Indianapolis Colts by the final score of 27-24. Josh Allen had 26 of 35 for 324 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Phillip Rivers, 27 of 46 for 309 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
We apologize for the comments of Padawan J for those egregious and blasphemous comments about Saturday's game. Coach, why don't you kick off your thoughts?
Yeah, Phillip Rivers is the ugliest arm in a throwing motion I think I've seen in my life.
Yeah.
It was tough to watch. The cannon / shot put throwing motion. I mean, it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
I mean, at least when he was like in the younger years, it had a little zip to it. Now it's like, I mean, it's
floundering.
It's like literally like, it's like watching my 6-year-old daughter try and throw with her wrong hand. It's tough. But I mean, outside of that, this was a great game. It was a lot of fun. I mean, Bills up early, looking real good. Well, I mean, it was back and forth, right? It was a little contested.
Yeah.
Then the Bills kind of opened it up a little bit, and I was like, oh, this is a lock. The Bills are going to cover. Because I believe the spread was, 6?
Yep.
Yeah, so Aaron, my wife and I had a little side game going since we didn't have the pick'em this week. So I was like, oh, Bills will definitely cover this because I just didn't think the Colts would have the offense to keep up. The Bills do what the Bills do in the second half of games, which is take a little siesta.
That third quarter of doom, man.
A little napperoonie,
Yeah.
So then obviously the Colts started marching the way back. And what an exciting last minute.
Yeah.
Exciting is one way to describe it.
I mean, it was for me.
Yeah,
I mean, I had no horse in the race, so I was like, all right, let's get this going.
Pad?
Well, first of all, to Bills Mafia, I just want to wish you a happy belated anniversary for the Music City Miracle.
Man, you really want that smoke this week. You really want that smoke.
I'm sorry, I had to go there. No, I mean, this was a good win for Buffalo, albeit a bit of a wake-up call, and I think Buffalo, I don't know the phrase, but I think Buffalo got caught a little complacent coming off of that big win against Miami, blowing them out by 30 points, 40 points, or whatever the hell it was, rolling. Josh Allen's slinging 9,000 touchdowns in the game. Stephon Diggs has got 1 million yards receiving in the game. I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea. Mm-hmm. We're looking great. We're looking awesome. And then you come into Indianapolis, which admittedly, they got a pretty decent defense. Nothing stellar. Nothing, like the 85 Chicago Bears, but they're still a pretty good defense. But then you look at the offense. Okay, Jonathan Taylor, 21 carries, 78 yards, 1 touchdown. He averaged 3.7 yards per run. Nothing special. And then receiving, Michael Pittman Jr., 5 catches, 90 yards, no touchdowns. Jack Doyle, 7 catches, 70 yards, 1 touchdown. Stop me if you've heard any of these names before. Zach Pascal, 3 catches, 37 yards, 1 touchdown. Trey Burton, 3 catches, 34 yards, no touchdowns. T.Y. Hilton, 2 catches, 32 yards. like the receiving core is nothing really special outside of T.Y. Hilton, which, let's face it, he's not the same T.Y. Hilton he was in years past. You know, good win for Buffalo, but I think this was a bit of a wake-up call of, hey, you're good, but just don't take it for granted.
I fully agree with you. I think the problem that they had was after they completely buried Miami. And granted, I love that game, though. Don't think I'm hating about that.
Oh, sure.
One. They bought into the hype. We always talk about this with AEW and Kool-Aid drinking and rose-colored glasses, where you start buying into the hype you're hearing from other people. Like, you are this unstoppable juggernaut. I know the news media was running with, oh, they can beat Kansas City. They can do, yeah. They're immediately crowning them Super Bowl champs.
Right.
Which I am saying, look, as a lifelong Bills fan, pump the brakes. The fact that we got here, we suffered one major injury with Zach Moss being out the playoffs. He has an ankle injury.
And replaced him with Devontae Freeman.
Yeah, who just got signed off waivers. Or free agency, rather.
Yeah, he was not signed to the Giants' 53 active roster.
Yeah, I forgot about it. Like, he's kind of fallen off the shuttle.
Yeah.
Shuttle. So it's like...
Hey, he actually had some glimpse. Had he not been hurt for those 4 games, like, he would have continued to play. They wouldn't have needed Alfred Morris. But, like, he goes down, Alfred Morris gets signed, they give the job to Wayne Gallman. And, you know, when Devontae Freeman came back, they just didn't need him anymore. So they were like, all right.
Right.
So this actually, when I found out they picked him up, I, you know, got a chuckle because, yeah, like, of course, like, here's, you know, an ex-Giant player now going to the second round of the playoffs. But, like, you got a ball player.
Yeah, we do, and it's sorely needed too.
Yeah, run game. I mean, because Josh Allen should not be
Your leading
rusher
Yeah.
and
No.
having to, like, fight for yards. Because, like, there's a couple of them where I was like, Joshy Poo, you got to go down, dog. And he's fighting for more yards. And I'm like, that's a recipe for disaster, especially against, you know, a Baltimore defense. But we're not there yet.
I admire the heart. Don't get it twisted, but I fully agree with you. And I've been screaming, slide. The fact that he stopped trying to hurdle defenders, I call a win. But the fact that he tried running chest first into a few of them.
I mean, listen, baby steps.
Yeah, I'm just saying they're going, Josh, you're too valuable to the team. You can't do this. The running game has been suspect all year.
Yeah.
That Devin Singletary has, I don't want to say had a decline, but they didn't use him the proper way. And I think that he is too small of a back to be your every down back. Like,
Yeah, he can't tote the rock 20 times a game.
I see him being the Darren Sproles type player. Like,
Yeah.
that's what he reminds me of a lot. But with Zach Moss, he was supposed to be the one to balance out. He was more like a younger version of Frank Gore.
Sure.
Except,
He's not.
yeah.
And I think that he shows that he still needs some work. And I think with the line being as banged up as it was this year, he did an adequate job. Nothing to write home about, but it was definitely, he tried doing what he could do. So that being said, the Bills became very one-dimensional, and with Josh being the one that's leading the charge and running, hey, he's winning the games, and that's what counts at the end of the day.
Right. Design runs, too. Like, I mean, I don't want people, like, they're designed runs.
Oh, yeah.
They're not even just, you know, the pocket's broken down, I'm going to get outside. No, these are literally like old Tim Tebow QB powers.
Mm-hmm. And I think that Brian Dabble is using that to his advantage. I mean, he's always been a run-heavy offensive coordinator. Always has been. So I can see him trying to do it. I just worry with our franchise quarterback, is this the right play? However, you're moving the chains and you're getting points on the board. I mean, one of the ugliest touchdowns I've ever seen was that little shuffle pass to Dawson Knox that, I mean, quite frankly, I was like, okay, was that really supposed to be a pass? But no, but Josh was smart enough to get rid of the ball.
Hey, I mean, Devontae Freeman will come in and run the ball.
Yeah, and that's what we need. So I think it'll be a good fit for them. And I think for Indianapolis, they did show flashes of brilliance too.
Sure.
Because they were running a very widespread offense. And the fact that Michael Pittman was burning the hell out of the team on the outside, I mean, that's absolutely crazy. But I think the scariest thing I took away from Indianapolis' offense, how wide open they left Jack Doyle.
Okay.
And that is a tight end that is not striking fear in the hearts of defensive coordinators.
No.
Travis Kelce does.
I mean, Jack Doyle is a respectable tight end.
Respectable, but
Yeah.
not a game changer like
Well,
Kelce.
I mean, it's how they use him, though. I mean, when Doyle came out of Stanford, I was like, and Stanford, and he went to the Colts, I was like, this is a great pickup.
Oh, yeah. No, he's a great pickup, but I'm saying for a game changer like the
for
Kelsey is.
For the season, Doyle's got 23 catches, 251 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
I don't think that's any fault of his.
It's not any fault, but my point, what I'm saying is they did
Phil Rivers can't throw the ball more than 5 yards.
Yeah, they took advantage of a team that really has no passing game and was really relying heavy on the run, but when they were passing, you're allowing players that are not exactly known for taking over a game to start to take over.
I mean, how many names did I have to read off from the Indianapolis receiving corps before I hit a name that you knew?
Well, I knew T.Y. Hilton.
Well, sure, but that was the third, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. That was the fifth name.
All right, read them again.
Michael Pittman Jr., Jack Doyle, Zach Pascal,
Jack Doyle,
Trey Burton, and then T.Y. Hilton.
Oh, Trey Burton played Dallas.
Yep.
All right, so I got 3 out of 5.
Yeah,
not fucking shabby, Sean.
Not too shabby, my
Not
coach.
too shabby.
Not too shabby at all. But
And Pittman was a hot fantasy name.
he was at the end.
Yeah.
Like I say, he was, but
All right.
for what you got from Indianapolis, I mean, Phillip Rivers definitely looked his age, and he definitely looked like this should have been the last game. And it was even weird on that pre-show too. He was already talking about coaching after the season.
Dude, he's got that job at the high school in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
No, my thing was, and I mean, flash forward to the end of the game. You know, you've got this. You know, the fumble that wasn't a fumble, that was a fumble that wasn't.
Yeah, that very questionable. I mean, that was a fumble,
dude. Yeah, I mean,
there's no way you can say for anybody that didn't see the play that Pascal caught the ball, went down and got up and made a football move, and the Bills popped the ball
while
out.
he was up. I mean, yeah.
While he was upright.
The thing was that they said his shin was still touching, I assume.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that was nuts, though.
They said that, and they said the hand of the back of the defender was counting for him being down. That was the argument.
But his back of his hand wasn't touching him.
I know. That's what I said, too. Like,
no, the thing was is Jacoby Brissett didn't come in and throw that Hail Mary. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you have a guy who can't throw the ball more than legit? And I know I said the 5-yard joke a minute ago, but like he legitimately can't throw the ball more than 30 to 40 yards, and you have him come in for a 45-yard needed Hail Mary, and he can't throw that far. How do you not bring in Brissett?
I'll say shit. I might even consider Jacob Eason.
Like, people know it's coming. They know, like, it's not like you're going to, like, all of a sudden, Buffalo sideline, there's 7 seconds left on the clock. You know, out comes Jacoby Brissett, and, you know, Buffalo's going to have to waste timeout. Oh, boy. They're lining up for the Hail Mary, guys. We didn't see this coming. Like,
I'll say, not a lot of teams aren't going to run what I like to call the schoolyard bullshit, which is lateral until you hope you pull off a Calver Stanford.
Right, which they could have done, but, like, you could have. I would have, had you brought Brissett in and then done the lateral, that would have thrown me off guard.
Sure. Yeah.
But like you bringing in Phillip Rivers or keeping Rivers in the game, I'm already assuming, okay, you're gonna toss this ball, and if you do lateral, like we're ready for it, you know. But like Brissett would have been the like, oh, they're definitely throwing the Hail Mary. There's no way, and then all of a sudden you might have caught him off guard with the lateral bullshit.
Yeah, it's something that I think Frank Reich and the offensive team just didn't have a good game plan for the crunch time. It seemed like they got overwhelmed in the moment.
Well, and I think they just didn't have an answer for it. You know, where, okay, we got to go with Rivers, who's our guy, but then he can't throw deep, and shit, we don't know.
Yeah, we got dink and dump.
Yeah.
You know, and eventually those, especially once you tackle them in bounds, you know, you're forcing their hand to be either using a timeout if they have them left, or to get on the ball and spike it.
Yeah, it was just something that they just looked very, like I say, caught off guard is the easiest way to put it. I don't know if it's just they got in the crunch moment and they just panicked. But I don't feel like they did. It was just something that I think, looking back on, they know where they made the mistakes, and when Indianapolis gets back to the playoffs, they're going to be in contention. For Buffalo, we'll
see.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a quarterback question.
Well, they have a quarterback question they're going to need to answer in the offseason. But they have the defense that can at least get them in contention. That's the one big thing that is the takeaway from Indianapolis. That they hung in there and they really slowed the Bills down. And for being the high-powered offense that everybody's saying is the second coming of Kansas City, they really humbled the Bills, which I think is, like Pat touched upon, I think it's a good thing. I think that they needed to show that they could win this close one. They can definitely build some confidence off it, and I think it's a wide-open eye awakener that if you're facing who you're facing next week, you can't take those mistakes and you can't buy into the media hype.
If I can comment on that real quick, because the thing with the media hype and everything, like they've earned it though. You know, like I mean the offense had been playing well enough. You hang 30 points on a division rival.
30 plus.
Yeah, 30.
30 plus.
It was they almost scored 60 points.
Right,
Yeah.
but by halftime they were up 30.
Oh, yeah.
And you score that by halftime with your starters in a game that counts for them, that matters for them. They need to win this game. You didn't, you dropped that on them. Like, that proved to me that, this offense is legitimate. And, I mean, I think part of the problem is that, obviously, in the media realm, they need the story. They need narrative.
Sure.
So, Kansas City is a clear-cut favorite. But, if they don't have the, hey, Buffalo's right here, they don't have that. And plus, I mean, everybody's so enamored, so in love with the Buffalo story, the struggles, the missed field goals, the Giants Super Bowl victory, the Cowboys Super Bowl victories. It's been a long story, struggle.
Yeah.
That's not hammering home.
Oh, I was waiting for you to get done, and I'm gonna be like, listen,
But
the Pinto, Ron, all the caricatures. All right,
Poncho, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Steve McNair.
And here you are, and Buffalo's winning, in a power move where they are a power team, and it's like, the media needs to milk that story for what it's worth.
Oh, sure. And it makes sense if you're milking it for the fans, like the Kens and the other folks we know. But if you're a player in Buffalo, you got to see that and go, okay, crumple up the proverbial sheet of paper and toss it in the waste paper basket and not get caught up in it.
I mean, I don't think they are. I think their problem is that they have a storied track record of fucking up the third quarter.
They do have that track record. Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem is they come out at halftime for whatever reason, whether they're up or, close in, when they're winning a game at halftime, they come out complacent in the third.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I mean,
we've
that's
talked
the
about that
problem.
many times.
That's what I'm saying. That's the problem with that's the actual problem with the team is whatever happens from the end of the second quarter to the start of the third, that 15-minute halftime, if they could just get rid of that and play straight football, that would be the limit for this team. But there's 15-minute break.
They would be perfect. But the problem that I had with this is, and Pat touched upon too, that they needed to just throw out any kind of media hype because they are still a young team. Like, that's one thing that I don't think people realize. They're still very young. This is trying to get over what happened with Houston last year, and they came in on such a big wave and buying into it. The fans were allowed back in the stadium, which, by the way, kudos to Bills Mafia because they sounded loud as hell, too.
I think that was the thing, really, honestly.
That could be.
Was the fans being there.
That could be.
Oh,
that emotion of having people back in the building when they haven't been for the last 16 weeks, being able to experience that emotion probably just weighed them the most.
There was a lot of factors, but at the end of the day, they got a gritty win, and that's what they needed to do. So I'm hoping for this coming Saturday, 8 p.m., because they got the primetime game, which that is going to be a sight. Nevertheless.
Pro tip, Baltimore, double covered Diggs.
Oh, they're going to be
6
ready
catches,
for
128 yards.
Yeah, they'll be ready for that game. I'm expecting that to be the best game of the weekend, not just because the Bills are in it, but I think it's going to be the best game of the weekend. That being said...
But we're not there yet. We don't know who won the Baltimore Titan game.
No, we'll get into that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bills have locked in their ticket, but who else decided to join them, Pat?
So we're going to switch to the next game up, which was between the LA Rams and the Seattle Seahawks, where the LA Rams won by the final score of 30-20.
Thanks a lot, Seattle.
Jared Goff, 9 of 19 for 155 yards, 1 touchdown, no interception. John Wolford, 3 of 6, 29 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions. We should note he did leave early in the game because of a nasty-looking injury.
Yikes.
Also, on the flip side, for Seattle, Russell Wilson, 11 of 27 for 174 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Coach, your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a story of the team playing 3 times and McVay realizing the weakness that is the Seattle's run defense and exploiting it. I mean, Cam Akers running for 28 times for 131 yards just shows that they were like, okay, we are going to take your weakness and we are going to expose it, even though we aren't a great run team as we once were.
Right.
But we're going to do it anyway. And it, was successful. I mean, obviously they had a couple good breaks, with getting up early and being able to run the ball and limit the Seattle offense. But this was a bad performance by Seattle.
Yeah.
And, if I'm Seattle fans, I'm kind of frustrated.
Yeah, no, if I'm Seattle fans, I'm definitely frustrated about this, But what surprised me is it's just as bad as the Seahawks defense has been. The thing you always hear is as bad as their pass defense. But what is the leading, total? It's the run yards, like Coach mentioned. 131 yards rushing from Cam Akers. Cooper Kupp, their leading receiver, 4 catches, 78 yards. And I just think it was a case of DK Metcalf got shut down. They didn't know what to do. Ramsey was on Metcalf for a bulk, if not all of that game. Only had 5 catches for 96 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, so decent game, but he wasn't, the game changer like you would expect. And then on the flip side, Tyler Lockett, 2 catches, 43 yards, no touchdowns. Although I got to admit, one of those catches was fucking insane.
Yeah.
He made that sideline one-handed catch with the defender all over him, so that was nuts. But I think this was just a case of, like Coach said, they played each other. This was the 3rd time they're playing each other. They know what they're going to do. They're not exactly going to reinvent the wheel and bring out a new playbook.
I think the one takeaway you really got to focus in on is Jared Goff was not supposed to play this game.
Nope.
John Wolford did. Unfortunately, he suffered a neck injury. Goff came in with a broken thumb.
Yep.
Surgically repaired broken thumb.
Still.
Yeah.
It ain't 100%.
Not 100%, and he's still throwing for 155 on the highly touted Seattle defense.
On 9 passes.
Well, highly touted.
But
I mean, they've been pretty bad.
They've been pretty bad, but at home they somehow
defense.
turn on. But that pass defense, like I say, the fact that Jamal Adams is now getting a ton of surgery at the end of the season from the early reports I was reading.
Yeah.
They were not prepared for what LA threw at them. And LA did a smart game plan. And they did a shutdown on Metcalf there. DK had nothing.
Well,
Even though he got 96 and 2,
yeah.
he still could not really answer Jalen Ramsey and for what the Rams were doing.
So they targeted 11 times. He only caught 5.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what the Rams did, by A, going out and getting the defensive coordinator they did, B, having a pretty vaunted pass rush. I mean, linebackers are, probably a C+ to a B- at best.
Mm-hmm.
And then, having 2 legitimate 1 and 1A corners.
Yeah.
Like that's the makeup of a great NFL defense. Like in today's NFL, and I mean, a true shutdown corner is not what it wants. I mean, it's not the same thing because the game has changed to the point where, obviously passing the ball, 40 times a game is not unheard of. So, for Jalen Ramsey to still hold a guy to 5 catches for 98 yards, like that's a great performance. And that's what you need if you want to be a upper echelon style team. Besides the fact that you need a prime wide receiver, which I've already noted, you need to have a good shutdown corner on the other side.
Yeah. And for the Rams, they definitely are looking playoff ready. That was the one
They're
thing.
looking okay.
But they did what they needed to do. That was a big statement win to go into Seattle. Because let's face it, no matter how bad Seattle is or how good Seattle is, going in there and getting a W out,
just like the Giants did. A lot of teams do it,
Yeah.
I mean, not a lot of teams do it. Just the vaunted 6-10 New York Giants did it.
Yeah.
The rightful NFC East champs.
Facts. So it was always really interesting to see how this one's going to play out. And now where the Rams are going to go.
Green Bay is where they're going to go.
Yeah, they're going to Green Bay. So now you have an ultimate matchup of Aaron Rodgers versus that defense.
Yeah, or you have that vaunted offense run game with Cam Akers now clicking versus a bad Green Bay rush defense.
Right.
Ooh.
So something's got to give there.
Oh, that old saying. There we go.
See, I have my one-liners.
Something's got to give. What breaks first?
Exactly. But for Seattle, a lot broke. And I know that they have some
a lot
work
is
to do.
broken.
Yeah. A lot is going to have to get worked on this offseason. So especially for a very predicted Super Bowl winner.
Yeah.
Super Bowl contender.
Assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after this game, before the playoffs started, Aaron was like, who'd you pick to win the Super Bowl on the show? And I was like, I picked Seattle. And she goes, what'd the guys do? And I was like, we all picked Seattle. Not to win. To go to the Super Bowl.
No, we all had them winning.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah,
that's even worse.
Yeah,
we all had them there, and we all had them winning.
God.
Yes.
No.
So we were all let down by Russell Wilson and company.
Out of a home playoff game. Ugh.
Yeah. Just an abysmal performance, and especially for a team that should have gone and
They
won
didn't
that
even
thing.
deserve to score that late garbage touchdown.
No, that was just to cover something.
Assholes.
Yeah, it was absolutely egregious.
Done talking about it. Moving on.
So Seattle, like I say, is enjoying the offseason. They got some work to do. And for L.A., they live
Ooh,
to
we
fight
can get
another
those
weekend.
video Russell Wilson throwing passes on the run in the nets.
Yep.
That's what we're going to get a lot of, guys.
Oh,
Who's
whole
excited
ton
for
of-
that?
Not this guy.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
I got other football to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, listen to me. I got my team still in the playoffs.
Yes, I do. Because the team that won your division was playing our next game.
Yeah, so the closeout Saturday night, you had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Washington football team, and Tampa Bay emerged victorious, winning by the final score of 31-23. Tom Brady, 22 of 40 for 381 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Taylor Heineke, exactly, 26 of 44 for 306 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
XFL superstar.
I heard Tony Dungy has him in the Hall of Fame already.
We'll say XFL Hall of Famer.
My God,
Jordan,
Coach.
he hate me.
Break it down.
Here we have a quarterback duel that nobody saw coming in Brady and Hankey. Washington's defense damn good.
Vastly underrated.
They're going to
Yeah.
be, in the coming years, if they get, another secondary piece, that front four with all first-round picks is very intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that Chase Young did not have a great second game against a young Andrew Thomas of the New York Giants starting left tackle, but, I'm definitely petrified of facing that twice a year for the next, 10 years. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah, no, definitely a good win for Tampa Bay. And it kind of surprised me because we've heard all year that this Washington defense is silently good, that shutting this down. Maybe it's a case of Brady being Brady, but he carved him up like fucking cheddar cheese. Mike Evans, 119 yards catching. Chris Godwin, 79 yards catching. Antonio Brown, 49 yards catching. Leonard Fournette had 39 yards catching.
Well, what I will say to that, Pat, is that the Washington defense is good. I understand this performance doesn't look good, but yeah, this was Tom Brady being Tom Brady. The offense clicked. The Washington secondary is good, not great, and when they have to cover elite players, have shown that they're not an elite secondary. And when you got Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Gronk, and the other tight end who is now escaping me because my brain memory does not work well sometimes. That's a very good offense.
It's a video game offense.
Yeah, literally, this is what we were going into the year saying. The Tampa Bay offense should be good. Now, obviously the problems with Mike Evans and Tom Brady early on were there. From all purpose, it looks like they've solved that.
You based on the stat line? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, winning is the Band-Aid of all in sports.
Yeah,
So
true.
for this game, there's a lot of headlines we got to remember going into this. I know there was a fair amount of criticism that Tampa Bay got the late game that night, especially
Sure.
facing a sub-500 team,
Sure.
albeit they won their division. And
Sure.
your coach, my coach, the coach, Coach Duffy pointed, we're not the rightful heirs to the NFC East throne. Then you hear that Alex Smith was not going to play in this game.
Yup.
So they were going with a relative unknown.
Yup.
So if you want to buy into the conspiracy theory, on paper this should have been a complete landslide. But Taylor Heineke decided to have the game of his life. And this showed me flashes of Matt Flynn.
Ooh.
That you brought in somebody that wasn't expected to light up the scoreboard and did, and was going punch for punch with old man Brady.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to realize this. And he definitely made his mark in the NFL with his running touchdown where he separated his shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to talk about somebody taking full advantage of the opportunity they were given, Heineke was the guy. He ran as much as he could and made himself into a superstar overnight. Albeit, though, the Bucs were built to beat this team.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm not saying they toyed around with them for 3 quarters because I don't think they did. I think they got caught off guard a little bit by how good this kid was. But at the end of the day...
Dude, and real quick, though, Bruce Arians.
Bruce Arians.
Bruce Arians. I'm going to say his name wrong just because he's a dick. He's an asshole. Just some of the comments he makes, even the post game about whether Alex Smith, playing or not playing. I'm listening to him. I'm like, the arrogance this guy has. Just, ugh. just a dick.
And I just don't know what got into him unless he is just, like we say, buying into hype. Maybe that'll be the underlying episode meaning for this show.
I think he is because he looks at what he's got, which, let's face it, that offense is what happens when you go to play the Madden franchise mode or whatever the hell it's called these days, because I admittedly haven't played Madden in a couple years. Go into franchise mode and you turn off budgets, you turn on forced trades, and you basically make your dream offense.
That's not unless you're me and you've got Julio Jones by sacrificing a whole bunch of first-round picks.
But it's one of those offenses that he's getting a little bit of sunshine blown up his butt, where he's like, oh, look at how great we are. Look at how awesome we are. And he's walking with that swagger. And he's got to be careful because it's very good. It's very easy to go down that road, and then you get knocked off your pedestal.
It reminds me of Rex Ryan.
Ryan at least, like, it was fun.
It was entertaining.
He is just like a straight up arrogant bad guy movie.
Well, that's
movie
the
bad
thing,
guys. Like, that's what he is.
Because he's not this guy. We saw him in Arizona, and
I liked him in Arizona.
Yeah, he was never like this. So I don't
humble, like, you wholesome. Like, you felt bad for him when everything went down. He gets fired. Everybody's like, oh, how do you fire him? Like, what a great coach. And then like. Now he shows up in Tampa Bay, gets a little bit of sunlight from the Florida, sun, and he turns into this heel.
Yeah.
So the only person I think could pull that off and be like a Paul Heyman type would be Belichick because, well, he can back it up. But
right.
What the fuck has Arians done?
Arians has nothing. He's living off 45, 54-year-old, whatever it is, Tom Brady.
109.
Yeah. He's living off him.
He's riding coattails.
And that offense, which is finally clicking, which is weird to say, but with the amount of talent he's had on that team, Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Gronk, O.J. Howard, I think was the other tight end you were thinking of.
Yes,
Fournette.
Thank you.
So, Fournette. You have all these weapons around you. You should be dropping 30 in your sleep.
Say Brady should be putting up historical numbers.
Well, you would think, but let's face it, Father Time has caught up to him more than any other media outlet wants to talk about. He looks old. I'm sorry. I'm going to be the one to say it.
His longest completed pass of the game was a 36-yard pass to Antonio Brown.
Yeah. He is not the Tom Brady of old. So the fact that you're going through the motions, you've given him every single chance to win, he should be dominating a young kid who literally was playing in the XFL prior to here.
Tom Brady, when he had Randy Moss on that team, was Aaron Rodgers' level of lethal from anywhere on the field. It was, as a Patriots fan, it was fun to fucking watch. Now, he's got a great receiving core, arguably as good as that 2017 he had when it was Randy Moss and Dante Stallworth.
I'll say better.
It's up there, if not better.
Randy made up for a lot.
Yeah, Randy made up for a lot. That's why I'm like...
No, but if you stretch it out with Antonio, Chris, Evans...
Fuck Antonio Brown.
Still,
Chris Godwin.
Statistically,
yeah.
But
with that offensive weaponry, he should be matching that 07 total he put up, if not beating it. But he's not because he's getting older.
He's getting older, and he's conflicting plays with his sideline coaches. Like, that's the thing. Tampa should be doing a lot better than they are. They should be the number one seed.
Oh, yeah.
They're not. And I don't think that they're going to fix that because obviously they have their toughest task next week.
To be announced.
Yes.
But we can tell you right now it's going to be on History Channel.
Yes, which we'll get into that when we come back. But for what we had Saturday night to kick off with, we had some good games. I would say 2 out of 3 had some storylines to it. One was an absolute stinker.
I mean, what my favorite aspect of this is we had 3 football games back to back to back that literally finished within a matter of outside of the 4 o'clock to the 8 o'clock game. Pretty much finished within 5 to 10 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's a world I want to live in.
The schedule was great on
that.
Well,
I mean, for God's sakes, that's what college football gives you every Saturday. And I mean, it was lovely. It was flawless. If you wanted to watch the post game, you could. But if you wanted to put on the new game, there it was. That's awesome.
Pat, final thoughts?
Oh, yeah. A great set of games, and I can't wait to talk about the next set.
Absolutely. Buffalo, we live to fight another day. So that's my takeaway from it. Tampa Bay and Washington was surprising, and the Rudy-esque story of Taylor Hinkie is something that we'll have to see moving forward next season. I don't know if it's a one-time trick pony here or what, but he made a star and obviously competed with Tom Brady. But at the end of the day, you knew Brady was going to take this one. And for Seattle, they have a lot of work to do. And for the LA Rams, you're playing with house money now. So
Pretty
let's see
much.
who you're facing next week. So hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts about Saturday's super wild card weekend? We definitely want to have that conversation. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, my name is JT.
What's up, everyone? I'm Darren.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Josh.
Hey guys, I'm Christian.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Dominic, and we're the East Coast Avengers.
We're a group of 5 friends who get together weekly and talk about everything that's going on in the nerd universe.
Whether you're a fan of Marvel, DC, Star Wars, video games, comics, or anything else nerdy that you can think of, we're the podcast for you.
You can find us on Anchor, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or whatever streaming platform you use to listen to your favorite podcasts on.
You can also catch us on our YouTube channel where we release tons of content such as vlogs, unboxings, TV and movie recaps, and trailer reactions.
So if those things sound good to you, then check out the East Coast Avengers podcast. We hope you enjoy.
To go back and to see the way things really used to be. Not knowing we remember them. To go back and to see the way things really used to be. Not knowing we remember them.
Hey, this is Brian Wolf from Fair City Fire. You are listening to ODPH, the greatest podcast in Binghamton.
Woo!
Hot lips touching, cool thighs breathing, shudder running up, her spine spinning. Long day to a long night, but I'm not stopping till I get it right.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and time to talk about Sunday of Super Wild Card Weekend. So, Pad, kick us off.
Yeah, starting off Sunday, you had the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Tennessee Titans, where the Baltimore Ravens emerged victorious by the final score of 22-13. Lamar Jackson, 17 of 24 for 179 yards passing.
And 1 duck.
One interception, no touchdowns. Ryan Tannehill, 18 of 26 for 165 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Should note, Lamar Jackson had 16 carries for 136 yards rushing and 1 touchdown.
Coach,
How'd
your
Derrick Henry
thoughts?
do?
Hot garbage. Shut down entirely. 18 carries, 40 yards, no touchdowns.
And that is why Baltimore won this game, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, you can't. Tennessee's offense, I know Tannehill and the wide receivers have been playing better, but when you limit the leading rushing 2,000 yard season,
2,000-yard rusher with no Pro Bowl lineman.
yeah, when you have that, well, that's just egregious. I mean, obviously one of their offensive linemen deserved a Pro Bowl spot. But
That's another story.
yeah, that's near your nose. But when you have that stat line for Derrick Henry, that already tells me the other team won the game.
Well, and I'd say it's also a situation of second half adjustments because Baltimore did not have jack. I know they scored 10 points in the first half. They did not have jack all going in that first half. They got lucky getting 10 points out of that first half. It was all second half adjustments.
The one takeaway I had with this is Lamar Jackson took the game over because he did what he knows best. Used his legs to run for downs because he was getting nothing done otherwise. And it's a smart play to do. That he went to his bread and butter. He is a mobile quarterback first and foremost. He does not stay in the pocket, and when he can run, he can run. Obviously, 16 carries for 136 yards. Let alone, he did one for, I don't know how long.
His longest.
The legendary one.
Yo, that run.
That was 48 yards.
That run was nuts.
Yes.
Because he literally, I mean, he was going so fast. I mean, I can only compare it to Devontae Smith. They're running so fast, it looks slow.
Yeah.
He that was a situation where he was obviously looking to pass and had nothing going and just took off because, hey, that's his skill set, and realized, oh, wait a minute, I can keep going because there was nobody near him.
Yeah, like I said, he did what he knows best, and that's to run. And I am not faulting him on this because what he needed to do was he needed to win this game for his legacy. Because if he had lost this one, psychologically, you're good for regular season, but you can't play in the postseason.
It's almost the Peyton Manning level.
Yeah, it's something that would have haunted him even worse. And I think that this just showed a testament of how much he wanted to win this one. And especially for Tennessee, who jumped out to that early lead, and I thought it was going to be a wrap after the first quarter.
Oh, so did I.
Yeah.
Because they were game for this one.
When they were shutting Baltimore down.
They shut down the running style of Baltimore, which is not an easy task to do.
No. Well, for the first quarter.
For the first quarter. But Baltimore, being Baltimore, made second-half adjustments. And when they finally said, Lamar, be Lamar, and stop trying to have him be a pocket quarterback, because he is not one. Let's be very honest about this.
No.
He is a running quarterback. You could almost say he's a running back that throws occasionally.
I mean,
you can almost make that argument.
I honestly, I think that if they paired him with a little bit better, like if he had a DeAndre Hopkins or a Larry Fitzgerald, that I feel like, because last year he threw the ball really well.
Yeah.
I mean, last year it was arm first, leg second. This year it's been arms only, arm only.
Yeah, because,
and they've kind of, but that's also what teams have been doing.
Right.
But really, that Giants game, I really feel like they found a groove offensively that, now is, it's scary.
It's scary, but that's the one thing that Baltimore was doing in the beginning of the season is they were trying to make him a pocket quarterback. And let's face it, he's not. This is not a slight. When I'm saying this about him, I know that he gets a lot of heat for running, but he's winning games.
Right.
But that only gets you so far in the NFL because we have seen this from other mobile quarterbacks.
Except if you're Steve Young.
Right, which but he wound up converting to a pocket quarterback.
He still ran.
But not as much as he used to.
Right, but Lamar Jackson isn't the type that's going to stay in the pocket, go through his progressions, and then decide to take off. He's going to go look at one or two guys,
that's all he
not
needs.
open, and go. Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah, that's all he needs.
Right.
Every passing thing should be for Baltimore. Honestly, should be progression 1, then 2, a check down, and then out.
Yeah.
That should be their offense, because the problem is when you have these 4 to 5 progression routes, he has too much to look at, and by the time he can analyze and look at all that, the pass rush is on him.
Yeah.
And then the pocket's collapsing, and there's nowhere for him to go. That's why it should be 1, 2, check and release, go.
And when they started doing that in that second half, that's when they took the game over.
Yeah.
And for Tennessee, once Derrick Henry was taken out of the equation, which give credit to Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
Because they gave a blueprint of how to stop Derrick Henry.
Well,
now,
they did that last year.
They did it last year. It's always been kind of that kryptonite. But they're showing teams of how you do this. So when it now came down to Ryan Tannehill trying to beat Baltimore, he struggled. But he did not have his A-game receivers, though, too.
No, he only had A.J. Brown, who had 6 catches, 83 yards, 1 touchdown.
Right.
He had other guys, but that was, the notable one.
Exactly. He did not have his A-list lineup. He may do with what he had. And you could say the one interception the guy slipped, too, if I'm not mistaken.
It's something like that, yeah.
But he was trying to force too much because he knew the gravity of the situation. When Baltimore took that lead back, then they knew, okay, we're in trouble. And like I said, once Lamar started running, you now add that other dynamic to your team that Tennessee just did not react quick enough to.
Well, I mean, here's the other problem, too. 4th and 2, plus yardage on the 40-yard line. You're down 7.
Should have gone.
And you kick a punt that you down at the 15. So it's a net of 30 yards.
Mm-hmm.
What did you get from that? Nothing.
Because
I mean, the egregious thing to me is Mark. Vrabel, as smart of a head coach as he is, you not only do you have Derrick Henry in your backfield. Now I know, signs point to them being able to stop him because that's what they've been doing all game. But if you can't trust Derrick Henry to get you 2 yards, that's a problem. Not only
fully
that,
agree
when he's averaging 2.2 for the game.
Not only that, but if you don't think that Baltimore's thinking, all right, they're going to go all in. Big boys, they're going to big trust us. They're going to put all the big package in, and they're going to run this right up the gut. We need to focus on, the A gaps. Let's stop that. And a little naked boot by Ryan Tannehill would have been wide open. So, point A and point B. And then you punt, right? What's Baltimore been doing to you all game?
Running crazy.
Running the ball.
Yeah.
What does running the ball do? Keeps the clock going. They took 6 minutes off the game clock. Then You get the ball back with, I don't know, probably like 3 or 4 minutes left to go in the game. You can't run the ball anymore because you don't have enough time. You got to stop the clock.
Right.
And now you're relying on Ryan Tannehill more.
Yeah.
That's just bad. That's bad game management gut decisions.
Fully agree. And especially for Vrabel. Because Vrabel, let's not forget, when he had the chance to knock out the Patriots, everybody thought he was crazy for going for that goal line push. And what happened? He knocked him out. So why were you scared to go for it on 4th and 2? And I fully agree with you as well. I don't care if Derrick Henry has 40 yards or 4 yards. He's still Derrick Henry.
Right.
Give him the ball on 4th down and 2 yards, or, like you said, run the screen and let Tannehill go.
This is what I like when I think about when I look back at the Giants season. Like there was opportunities, like especially like last season, there was opportunities where they just couldn't trust the offensive line and the running backs to get them a yard.
Yeah,
I mean that's then punt, you know. But when you have a MVP caliber running back and an offensive line that shows when the nitty gritty gets tough that they'll push, you have to.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
And that's where they fell. And for Tennessee, this was a bad loss.
Yeah.
This was completely a bad loss. This was a game they should have been able to win, but Lamar Jackson took this over. So he had his breakout performance, albeit, though, he went back to basics, which you can argue if Baltimore just let him do all season, they'd probably been in better standings.
Yeah, arguably. Yeah. I mean, one could say. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though, is that the year before they played Tennessee in the playoffs last year. And what did Tennessee do?
Yeah.
Absolutely dismantled them playing this ball. So I don't know what their game plan defensively was, whether they were like, all right, we're worried about Lamar Jackson throwing the ball or whatever it was, but like I don't know what they were thinking, cuz like if you look back at the game tape last year, it's like, all right, we got to make sure that we limit we need to make sure, well, actually the X factor was Derrick Henry just couldn't get off like he did last year.
He couldn't.
Because they let Lamar Jackson run all over them. They were inviting him to.
Yeah.
Because it kept the game clock moving.
Well, that was the thing. When you have a third runner for Baltimore going in there now,
right,
it's a whole different dynamic, and they never adjusted.
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins played well, too.
Yeah, Dobbins played good, and like I say, they never adjusted for Lamar Jackson. So he was picking up on this.
My other favorite thing from this game was Des Bryant getting a personal foul after on that to end the second half.
Yeah.
Baltimore gets the punt, make a couple plays. It's like a 3rd and 2, and then Des Bryant gets his personal foul, and then they pull him off the game. And Jim Harbaugh just like, dude, I'm just go to the locker room. Like, just go. Like, you're cut now. Just go. Like, I thought that was really – I got a chuckle out of that interaction.
Baltimore had so much swag going on for this, and the fact they took that team penalty when they all jumped on the 50-yard line logo.
Well,
but they were –
payback's a bitch.
I know. They were motivated. It was ridiculous. But when you win a game like that, and now they have one of the more quieter rivalries starting up, and I love seeing these two go face each other.
Yeah. Dude, when two teams legitimately hate each other, it's so much fun.
Well, and it goes back to their playoff game last year. When Baltimore went in with all the swagger, got embarrassed, and came back, and you had the nonsense Week 11 this year. Yeah, it's awesome.
Legitimately, like, I was like somebody, one of my Facebook people, like posted, like, what's a legitimate NFL rival outside of the division, or in or outside the division? But he was like, he emphasized the outside the division. And I was like, God, there's really not much, in a day and age where so many people are like, cool with each other and friends and stuff. But this is that, I think that's what's fun about the NFL. Like in the NBA, like as much as like the Knicks play the Nets tomorrow, as much as we, as Knicks fans want to be like, no, fuck the Nets. Like at the end of the day, KD's going to go back and probably give daps to Mitchell Robinson. They're probably going to go have dinner together or whatever. Like, they're all friends at the end. Like, there's no real heated rivalries among most of the players. But in the NFL, like, outside of, like, your circle, there's a lot of heated rivalries. I mean, Golden Tate and Jalen Ramsey, literally, Golden Tate looked for him after the game. Like, I love that. Oh, yeah. I mean, I didn't love it at the time because, like, focus on the game. But, like, I miss the rivalries.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what always makes sports fun.
Sure.
Especially when
college.
When you can have those rivalries they just elevate a game up that much more, especially there's no such thing as a meaningless playoff game.
Ups the ante.
But yeah, it gives a little more drama to it, and especially for this had so much of a storyline on it, you were almost thinking you're watching a soap opera because they had so much back and forth emotion. But at the end of the day, Baltimore pulls off the upset.
And you know where it stems from? The coaches.
Yeah.
Like, Vrabel is a hard-nosed, tough, badass guy, and Harbaugh is just known for also being the same type of character.
Yeah.
So, but a little more outspoken.
Yeah.
So it's just fun.
It's fun. It meshed well, and like I say, Tennessee is going to go home. They're going to be back in it next year. So if anybody's writing them off, it's no, they just got to make a couple adjustments on defense.
Yeah, I mean, the Clowney signing just didn't land.
No,
which was a huge problem because they had no pass rush, and letting Logan Ryan go for free was a huge problem. Mm-hmm. Now I know that they wanted him to play corner, and he wanted to play safety, but damn, losing him was a blessing for the Giants because they signed him to extension.
Yeah.
So thank you.
So Tennessee, like I said, they'll be back. Baltimore's got a date with the Bills at Rich Stadium, 8 p.m. Saturday night. But let's see who else is going to be dancing next weekend.
Next up, you had the New Orleans Saints taking on the Chicago Bears, where New Orleans won by the final score of 21-9.
Don't even count that 9. It was 20-6. Or 20-3.
Drew Brees, 28 of 39 for 265 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Mitchell Trubisky, 19 of 29 for 199 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions.
Can we also give a shout out to Nickelodeon and the coverage?
Yeah, that was awesome.
Amazing.
Well, you missed the award that Mitch Trubisky won.
Oh, yeah.
The MVP.
Yeah.
The Nickelodeon valuable player.
Yeah. We can move on from this game.
Yeah. There really wasn't anything to talk about. This is just straight up New Orleans came in and was New Orleans. Chicago, I'm sorry, you got exposed.
Exposed. They were bad all year. Chicago went into this game, and they are who we thought they were. Mm-hmm. A bad football team.
Yeah. They haven't been good all year, but for everybody that was hyping them up and saying, oh, they're really a playoff team. No, they're not.
Well, I mean, they earned their way there.
Yeah, they earned it by default, but they still got there.
Sure.
So the fact you came in and you did this turd of a performance, and that's putting it mildly. I mean, Trubisky, not even 200 yards passing.
Hey, say something nice about him. He's an MVP.
He took slime very well. I don't know.
There you go.
Sure.
He had a great pass to Jimmy Graham to end the game.
Yeah.
Which good for Jimmy Graham scoring that touchdown to finish possibly, might be the walk-off for his career, scoring his last touchdown in New Orleans. Talk about serendipitous.
Full circle.
Yeah.
The only reason Chicago even got in the playoffs is because of the expanded playoff field.
Mm-hmm.
And, Giants just had to go 6-10.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They showed it, but the major takeaway is New Orleans is ready for next week.
I miss the Giants. I got to stop talking about them. I miss them so much.
You're going to be like John Cusack in High Fidelity holding up the boombox or say anything.
It's just so hard. I can't stop talking about them.
Say me.
All right, no more. I'm not going to talk about them again.
All right.
Fuck them.
But New Orleans, they're ready to go.
Devontae Smith.
And now we have the big game with Tom Brady next week. It's going to be a fun one.
It's on History Channel.
Yes, it is, because both starting quarterbacks are, 85?
Yeah, combined.
Something like that. So we'll definitely be tuned in for that.
Who do you think can throw further, Drew Brees or Phillip Rivers?
Drew Brees.
Brees.
Okay.
No, I think...
I mean, we saw Phillip Rivers can throw it 38.5 yards.
Drew Brees,
I don't remember the last time Drew Brees threw it farther than that.
Drew Brees, and it's not even close by 10, 15 yards.
When's the last time you saw him throw that far?
How long did Michael Thomas be out this season?
Oh, Michael Thomas is running slants. You heard Michael Thomas himself.
Yeah.
He's a slant man now. He's recalibrated himself.
He's the slant man.
That's what he said. He recalibrated himself, so now he knows how to run slants.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
He's not DK Metcalf, who can only run one run route.
Yo, can you imagine Brees with Metcalf?
No,
because he couldn't throw him.
Exactly.
He couldn't throw the ball to him.
Metcalf would run down the field and have to come back to go get the ball.
Yeah, DK Metcalf would run the fly. The ball would still be in the air, and he would run back underneath it.
Yeah. I could only imagine. But now
it would be like that Bugs Bunny thing where he would play himself. Or Sonic most recently, for you young kids out there.
And now I got that song stuck in my head, the Scat Man, but now it's the Slant Man.
Yep.
Brees' longest pass of the year. Brees' longest pass of the year was a 52-yard pass he completed on the 27th of September, where it was 52 yards.
Well, what was the yak on that? Was it a 30-yard pass with 22 a yak?
Listen, I can't get that in depth.
All right. Well, this is Statman. This is important stuff here. You can't just throw out 52-yard passes and not know the yak.
I'm looking it up.
He's trying to make sure it's not a typo. That's
all right. Well, I'm just saying, like, we need to know the yak.
Oh, well, Pat's going to look at the yak.
Was it Alvin Kamara, too?
I'm looking
If it was Alvin Kamara, then it was a screen, and I win.
Yeah. Well, he's checking that up right now. So we'll even go to the next game, which...
Oh, don't do it. He's got to compute this real quick.
Well, no,
Let him calculate.
We'll come back to it.
All right. We'll come back.
So the final game of the night was between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns, where Cleveland won by the final score of 48-37. Baker Mayfield, 21 of 34 for 263 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Ben Roethlisberger, 47 of holy fucking shit, 68, 47 to 68.
Yep.
For 501 yards.
That's a real stat.
4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
Hey, I just want to thank the Pittsburgh Steelers for spotting Cleveland 28 points while they were missing their head coach, defensive coordinator, and their special teams coach or their other coach.
Let us talk about this.
Okay, let's talk.
So this game was put on in prime time, and Cleveland had this wonderful video package. If you want to talk about the ultimate underdog story the Bills had,
illustrated by their number one fan, all of a sudden, Mr. LeBron James.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was the Ohio State one. I'm sorry,
yeah.
He did that for Ohio State.
He did it for Ohio State,
not the Browns, because he's a Cowboy fan.
Exactly.
Right.
Well noted. Right. Cowboy fan.
Not a Brown fan.
Nope.
Cowboy fan.
Cowboy fan.
Yes.
No, they took this where they're talking with citizens of Cleveland and, talking about the struggles of the Browns. And, listen, my dad, God bless his soul, was a Browns fan, true and true. I saw the fumble and
tough,
the drive.
Tough.
So I understand the plight of Cleveland.
You had Belichick.
Yep. I mean, obviously, with Art Modell moving the team, to Baltimore.
Sure,
the team
a lot of
gone.
stuff.
They have had their drama, to say the least. And to get to the playoffs where they have been respectful, and let's say, obviously, the past couple of years, there's been a lot of hype behind them. We had them going to the playoffs last year. They didn't do it because, obviously, Freddie Kitchens, not the guy.
No, he's not. Still not. Just update.
Mm-hmm.
Confirm.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. He is who we thought he is.
Yes. So for the Browns to do as well as they did this season has been a remarkable story, to say the least. It looks like on paper they finally got it together. And like I said, going into Sunday night, there's this wonderful video package, really selling the story of the underdog tale. You had the head coach was out with COVID-related issues. You had multiple players and coaches also out of the game.
Cleveland didn't practice all week.
Mm-hmm. You had all of these storylines going into the game, especially for an 8 o'clock game, and we have always said the needle moves for Sunday Night Football. Whoever is on that game, that is the one everybody is talking about because there's so many eyes on there. It's the most watched television program on network TV, probably streaming too if you really want to get down to the nitty-gritty. I don't have time for that. Going into this game, have we ever seen Pittsburgh, the historic Steelers, 11-0 to start the season, come out this flat?
Dude, not only flat, but just making bad decisions.
Top to bottom.
Uh-huh. I mean, Mike Pouncey, a longtime Pro Bowl center.
Yes.
One of the probably best centers to come through in the NFL in the last 15 years, up there with Nick Mangold.
Yes.
As far as being like a great center.
One of the greatest Jets of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a short list.
Yeah, well, I mean, centers don't get a lot of praise, so to even know a center is pretty goddamn good, you know? And to throw that, to have that snap go over Ben's head.
First play of the game,
First play of the game. How many shotgun snaps have you sent this year alone? Because Big Ben can't get under center anymore because he can't fucking move.
Yeah.
Then to have the snap go over his head on the first snap of the game of a home playoff game in a playoff situation that you've probably faced throughout your career. Yikes.
It's as routine as in baseball when the first baseman gets the ground ball and he's got to toss it to the pitcher covering first base. They practice it all goddamn year. It's the first thing they practice when they get to, when the rest of the players, not pitchers, report to camp. They practice it all goddamn year because they know how much it's going to come up. It is something that it's the bread and butter of the center's job. it's not something that like, oh, I'm not used to doing. Dude, you do this. This is what you are paid to do.
Exactly. For the first play of the game for Pouncey, who this was out of nowhere on anybody's radar for one, throwing that ball 20 feet over Ben's head, which should be like a reflex. You shouldn't even have to think about it.
Right. At this point, no.
Yes. Then let alone the next 3 series where Pittsburgh's offensive line got manhandled.
Right.
And that is an understatement to understand the gravity of the situation. At one point they were showing they had Myles Garrett triple covered because he was tearing right through them, and they had to call in their extra tight end just for more blocking.
So this is what I did not understand about this team. So NBC, their broadcast, they always show the Pro Football Focus rankings of these players.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Their entire offensive line is top 25.
Yes.
Through and left tackle to right tackle, top 25 for each position.
You might want to reassess that.
And, you see Charlie Villanueva, God, I just said his name.
Pouncey.
See, this is Pouncey. Their right guard, their left guard, right tackle. All players that are of elite caliber, and to come out with this performance.
Villanueva, Matt Filer, Marcus Pouncey, David DeCastro, and then
David DeCastro is a longtime Pro Bowl right guard.
Chukwuma Okorafor?
Sure. Yes. Bless you. He, They all were an elite offensive line. And then all of a sudden, I had James Conner on fantasy, so, I watched Pittsburgh closely. James Conner was hot to start the year, got hurt. Tony Snell came in, he got hot. They were able to run the ball. And then all of a sudden, the Dallas game happened, and it was like they couldn't run the ball anymore. I'm watching this game, and I'm like, dude, I just need James Conner to get a first down, let alone, a touchdown. Just get 10 yards on 10 carries. I don't give a shit. Just get 10 yards. Yeah. And they couldn't do it. And I don't understand. I think part of it is they had to switch because, again, Ben Roethlisberger, people,
he's old,
cannot physically move.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
For you to have to go to shotgun snaps because your quarterback is not physically able to take a snap under center to get a handoff to your running back is a problem.
Yeah, no,
and that's what this happened. That's what happened here.
Yeah, it's a case of he's 38 years old. He'll turn 39 here in March, but he's got the body of like a 50 or 60 year old. And I'm just looking at the play by play. Of course, we know the first possession was a fumble. Then they came back, interception. Cleveland scored a touchdown to make it 14-0. Then they came out 3-and-out for a punt. Then Cleveland scored another touchdown. Pittsburgh came back, another interception, which then let Cleveland score another touchdown to make it 28-0. Pittsburgh came out, got a first down, ran 11 plays, but then punted. Cleveland came back. Hey, congratulations, Pittsburgh defense! You held them up, punt. But then Pittsburgh came back, interception, Cleveland punt, and hey, Pittsburgh, you scored a touchdown, but it wasn't until late in that first half. And oh, hey, by the way, at this point, it's 28-7.
Yeah. Pittsburgh got punched in the mouth. This was role reversal in the fullest definition of it.
And, well, the other thing that you didn't mention, too, when you were talking about the lovely video package that Cleveland did.
Oh, Schuster-Smith?
Schuster-Smith.
Smith-Schuster, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, the fact that he got out there and said, well, the Browns are the Browns, and you're like, I can understand having trash talk. Listen,
sure.
I get that.
Sure. You didn't learn your lesson from the dancing on the logos. Then you had 3 straight games of quotes, and then you finalize it with this. I'm all for players. I don't mean it in the sense of oh, he doesn't want players. No, have your fun, talk your game, do whatever. But when you are having the performances that you had to end the year, the last 5 weeks of the season, which have been abysmal. Deontay Washington couldn't catch a pass, couldn't catch a cold, Then you have Smith-Schuster unable to catch passes and also getting blasted on catches over the middle.
Yeah.
Chase Claypool was non-existent until that touchdown the last 5 weeks of the season. Just shh.
You
don't
have,
say anything.
You have nothing to talk about.
You cannot act like, like if there was like, a guy coming off of like a Pro Bowl game and you're like, yeah, I know we can handle Cleveland, but you like won the last, like if Marquise Brown of Baltimore came out and said that, I'd be like, yikes, you haven't played very well, but all right, like you guys are winning, sure.
Yeah.
But like you limped into this, you played terrible going into it, specifically you, and then you come out and you twerp like you tweet, talk.
This is to me is another case of Tomlin just can't control the locker room. With everything that's gone on in the past, yeah, he's a great coach. Yes, he's very respected with that team and in the NFL and in front offices. But I think it's just a case of he couldn't control the locker room, because let's rewind the clock a little bit. They beat Baltimore 19-14. They're 11-0. They're the hottest shit since sliced bread. And I'm sitting here being a fan of the last team to go undefeated in the regular season going, we'll see. This ain't easy. That's why not everybody can do it unless you're playing Madden. It's not easy to do. There's going to be a couple, if they do it, there's going to be a couple scares. There's going to be a couple games where it's a late touchdown to get them. And then they come out and they lose to Washington. And then they lose to Buffalo. And then they lose to Cincinnati, which, remember, at that point, they don't have Joe Burrows.
Right. So
this is a vastly different Cincinnati team than the one they beat 36-10 back in November.
Mm-hmm.
And then they win against Indianapolis, which, congratulations, you're going to squeak one out there, but then you lose to a hungry Cleveland team. This was not the same Pittsburgh team that you saw at the start of the season, and I know they had injuries. Losing Bud Dupree was obviously a huge
it's
huge loss for them on defense, because all of a sudden, who the hell do you guard? Do you double cover Bud Dupree or TJ Watt? Good fucking luck, because either way, you double cover one, the other one's coming down your throat. All of a sudden, you don't have Bud Dupree. Oh, well, shit, we know who to double cover now. It's just a case of Tomlin lost against Washington and Buffalo. Okay, sure, I can see that. Should have clamped that shit down then.
Well,
that's actually not valid. I mean, God, you can go all the way back to Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, no,
those issues.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's a continuation of that.
And then Antonio Brown and all of his stuff, the locker room. It was Juju Smith-Schuster with the phone. No, in the locker room, right?
That's my point, though. Is that he's a very respected coach. He's a good coach. Look at the track record and look at the record.
Right.
But he just can't control the locker room, and it gets away from him.
He can't control the locker room, but what they do better than anybody, and this is Pittsburgh, is they'll hit the reset quick.
Sure.
And that's the one thing that I don't think Smith-Schuster's back next season. I think he's a free agent anyway, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean,
but he's gone, and I think the one thing that I would be worried about if I was Pittsburgh, Chase Claypool was running his mouth after the game.
Yeah, but he's been kind of chirping all year. Listen.
Yeah, I know.
All right. I
mean, I don't know what he's learning at Notre Dame.
Simmer down. Yes, Pat, you have your hand raised.
You are correct. Juju is a free agent after this year.
Okay. Simmer down on the Claypool stuff. Okay? We'll address that when it becomes a problem. He wasn't dancing on logos and stuff yet, okay? He wasn't getting his phone out, twatting on. So just simmer down on Claypool, okay? Okay.
It's just something to keep an eye on.
No, what I would like to keep an eye on is Ben Roethlisberger and the offseason. Because
he's gone.
He has to retire.
The final shot of him, and there was some notable Steelers that did not shake hands, acknowledge the Browns. They sat on the benches. The final shot of Roethlisberger sitting on the bench after the game.
Dejected.
That is the new crying Jordan.
Yeah, I saw your.
That is. It is. That he looked defeated. And I understand, okay, you just lost a game. No, there is something when a game mentally breaks you.
That was like you lose the Super Bowl, the World Series level of defeated.
Yeah, because I think what he knew in the back of his head is, I'm 38 years old.
This is it.
My body is that of a 58-year-old's, because he's taken more pounding over the years.
Oh yeah.
Than arguably any other quarterback currently playing in the league.
He's bet for. I've had him in fantasy a couple of years, not this year, but there's a couple of years where it's like, all right, he's a decent quarterback. He's not going to put up huge numbers, but he's a good quarterback. That last year I was like, as bad as it was, and he had a couple injuries, I think it was, and I was just like, I need to get rid of him because this is a liability.
Ready? I'm gonna give you a name. Ready? Matt Stafford.
He'd be perfect for there.
Boom.
He'd be
plug and play
if he can get out of Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Detroit's going to retool everything going into this offseason anyway. So
That'd be
I'm just saying, like, because I don't think Pittsburgh will sacrifice the first pick that they have to chase after Deshaun Watson, and I don't blame them for not doing it because they just traded their first round pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick. So I think the smart move to do, trade like a third or a fourth that they probably ask in Detroit and go after Stafford.
Stafford does have an out after this year.
I would fully
then
do
there
that.
you go.
No, I would fully do it if I'm Pittsburgh, and if Detroit, it's a lot to give up your franchise guy because he's put Michigan on the back for so many years.
Dude, Detroit needs to just, I think this is going to be a strip down and rebuild.
It would be smart too, and I think for Pittsburgh, they're going to need to.
Detroit, I'm saying it's going to be a complete retool. But with Pittsburgh, though, what they can do with Stafford is they can plug and play.
Oh yeah, he could go right in there first day and he'll be fine.
Right,
and especially he's got Claypool because I don't think Smith-Schuster's coming back. I think he's long gone. Because
I think if somebody offers him big dollars and Pittsburgh's not willing to match, he's gone.
Oh, I think he's gone regardless because I think that as you brought up with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. Pittsburgh hits that reset button, and they are willing to get rid of people without bringing them back if they feel their character issues.
Well, and they're also willing to get rid of them when they know they have said replacement.
Yeah. We see with Plaxico Burress.
Plaxico Burress to Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown to Schuster. Schuster, Claypool.
Yeah.
Claypool's just got to get rid of that stuff he learned in college.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets rid of that Notre Dame way.
Listen, that Notre Dame way goes on special teams, okay?
Yeah.
Let's just talk about that.
Well,
how often do you see your number one wide receiver chasing down people on kickoff return?
Well, will that change? We don't know.
Well, it might. Yeah, it has to. If you're number one, if he ends up, and obviously Deontay Washington's a fine wide receiver too. I mean, Eric Ebron, they've got pieces. The offensive line is a top 25 pro football talk, your pro football focused thing.
Asterisk.
But for everything that happened in this game, they definitely weren't, and they showed it. And for Cleveland, take nothing away. They stepped up. They wanted that underdog role. Like I say, it was almost too storybook-esque for my liking, but it is what it is.
You know what, though? Enjoy this.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
City of Cleveland.
Oh, yeah.
Rejoice. I know that you have Kansas City coming up. And listen, Kansas City, let me talk to you. Let me talk to you, Cleveland. I know that you're happy and you're thinking, hey, we have a chance. Don't worry about it. Enjoy this win. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about Kansas City.
The line's only 10.
Don't worry about Kansas City. Enjoy the moment. And then when Sunday's said and done, go back to it and relive this game. Relive the Pittsburgh game. Don't worry about the Kansas City game because I don't think it's going to go your way.
Also, let's face it, this game against Pittsburgh is what's going to sustain Cleveland for the next 25 years.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, this was their Super Bowl.
This is all you needed. Enjoy it.
The fact they exercised some demons out in this one. Baker Mayfield looked great, which you don't say often.
No. And the whole team looked great.
The law firm looked great, too.
Yeah.
So that all coming together, Cleveland will give Kansas City a challenge. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they'll at least have the challenge.
If their starting corners come back, that will help.
Oh, yeah.
But if they're still out, listen, Kansas City's wide receivers aren't going to drop passes. And Patrick Mahomes is not going to miss a ball snapped over his head by 20 yards because he's just going to run and go get it.
The fairy tale is going to be over, but for this week, Cleveland, enjoy it. Like Coach
Celebrate. Said. Unlock the beer coolers in the town. Have at it.
Well said again, my coach.
Yeah.
Well said again.
To answer your question about the Drew Brees pass, it was a screen pass. I had to look up the highlight on YouTube. It was a screen pass to Alvin Kamara that he ran for 52 yards.
Boom.
So many highlights.
Boom.
That you can just take away from this weekend. It was a great way to start the NFL playoffs. So definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. What was your thoughts about Super Wild Card Weekend in general? We want to have that conversation. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Strikes My Fancy, the discussion-based podcast about everything that, well, you guessed it, strikes my fancy. Every Friday, I bring a guest to the table to talk about something new and interesting, from craziest fandom theories to mental health awareness and every little thing in between. No topic is off limits. Send your topic ideas to strikesmyfancypodcast@gmail.com or drop me a line and let me know you want to be on the show. So tell me, What strikes your fancy?
This is Rich, the host of the Three Fat Nerds podcast and co-host of the Horror Zone 607 podcast, and you are listening to our hashtag 607 podcast brothers, the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. Now kick it back over to Ken Moneybags and the crew.
Coming back for another segment here on the ODPH podcast, and now it's time to talk a little NBA and some basketball.
Basketball. Oh, boy.
So this one, Coach Duffy has to address and has to really bring some light to a situation going on with a team in New York, but no, it's not our beloved Knicks.
Because they are letting me down right now. So.
Well, we were going to go in waves.
Stretch.
Yeah, it's a tough
stretch.
It's a tough stretch for the
Knicks.
Knicks.
I mean, I came on the show last week and I said how all in I am on this team, and then since that point, they've gone like 1-3.
Hopefully, you're not the kiss of death.
I'm not though, because they're not 1-3 because at that point they had won 4 out of 5.
Yes.
So
we knew they were going to be
maybe
in
I
waves.
am. Yikes. Well, anyway, I hope I'm not. I hope I didn't jinx them.
So that's why we're bringing some jinx magic.
Tomorrow night, ironically, they play the Nets, who will be without. Take a guess, guys. Kyrie Irving.
I was going to say Jason Kidd.
So.
Wow,
dude.
Pat is going for the heel heat this week.
Man.
Richard Jefferson?
Wow.
Vince Carter?
Wow.
Oh, wait, sorry, wrong team.
Dude, I actually, there's a very funny story on the three of them that was on Sports Nation that people should look. It's great. Anyway.
Yes.
Great Nets teams, those teams, Pad.
Oh,
okay?
Yes.
Jason Kidd, my all-time, my favorite player.
Because they're from New Jersey, that's why.
Right, but Jason Kidd, my favorite player. But we're not talking about that net point guard. We're talking about the current net point guard, or at least he is kind of the current net point guard.
Lack thereof.
So Kyrie Irving last week missed a slate of games, which the Nets released in a press release stating that he was missing due to personal reasons.
Mm-hmm. Happens.
Sure. Not in the 90s, but, now in today's day and age of basketball.
Well, especially with pandemic going on. And,
sure.
And Lord knows what's going on. Yeah.
Right. But some videos surfaced today. Correct teams on the interweb found videos of Kyrie Irving potentially at a nightclub recently. Now, this isn't the James Harden story where this turns out these videos were during the offseason. These videos were recent, and it is Kyrie Irving in a nightclub celebrating a birthday, having a party with friends. Now, the video is right now to be speculative, to be fair.
Yes.
Sure. Mean, allegedly, but it is enough for the NBA to be investigating this. Now, the reason why this is so big is because if it is found out that, Kyrie did violate protocol, not only is it going to cost him some serious coin, but it is going to cause a huge breakdown with the NBA.
Well, the other thing that makes it so suspect is it was reported by the New York Post last week as to the reason he was absent. The Nets thus far have been kind of mum's the word, not really saying, just we'll let him address it when he wants to. The reported reason is that he, and I'm reading directly from the New York Post article, quote, a source familiar with the situation told the Post that Irving is fine physically, but was upset by the attack on the U.S. Capitol in Washington last week. So, yeah, 1 + 1 ain't equaling 2 in this situation. Now, if it is the case that he is upset about what happened in Washington, which we've made our thoughts on that whole situation on social media before, we're not going to get into it. Mm-hmm. If that is the case, I understand that. Sure. I can get that.
And Kyrie's been one of the most vocal players as far as the bubble, and when that was all going last year.
Right.
The Black Lives Matter movement and his opinion, so he's been very vocal on that, and to his right,
Sure. No, absolutely. And that's one of the things I like with the NBA is when they feel passionately about something, they do something about it. They're very quick to act.
And they respect the player's opinion on that act.
Yes. I mean, look at what happened in the bubble with the playoffs last year where you had this situation going on in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. The NBA players said, you know what, we ain't playing because of this, and they shut down an entire day of playoff games.
Yeah.
As Kyrie Irving, who I believe is still the president of the NBA Players Association, if not one of the
I believe LeBron is the head and he's the vice.
Okay, so he's still high up in there. If you really are upset about what took place last week, do something about it. We're sitting here almost a week removed, and mum's the word. He hasn't said a thing. The team isn't really saying what's going on. The only thing we have to go on is this video that came out Monday as we record of him out at a nightclub partying and celebrating a birthday, which not the greatest look.
Yeah. The scary thing about this is we are still living in the C-19 era.
Oh, yeah.
So
there's nobody wearing a mask in that video.
Exactly. And obviously, if Kyrie is taking time off for the social issues, okay, that's
understandable.
That's one thing. Yeah, I'm not going to fault you about that, and that is your choice to do. What I am going to fault, though, is with what is going on with the C-19 era of sports right now, to be basically ignoring protocols.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big issue.
This story is, the video is not helping the NBA, where they've had to postpone, 2 games in 48 hours. I know there was a game, the game last night or 2 nights ago that was supposed to be played, but they postponed it because of C-19. And then there was a game that was supposed to be played tonight that has been postponed because of C-19. So, and this is with the Players Association and the NBA getting together and changing their protocols a little bit.
Well, I mean, if I will, and I might take the unpopular stance on this.
Sure.
You have a job.
Yeah.
Like you're getting paid to play basketball. Like I understand that, it is a billion-dollar company and, you are a player and all that stuff. But like you signed a contract that stated you would play in these games unless unable to. And I mean, the last I checked, but like us common folk can't just up and call our employer and say, I'm not coming in today because of my reasons.
Well, I mean, we can, but just we're not around for long.
Well, exactly. And I mean, that's my problem with this. Like, and taking what the net said away, because if that is the case, then fine. But like the with the video surfacing and the fact that it was not like nobody's actually came out and held a press conference and just said like this is the reason why. Like you have teammates that you are, you are a part of.
Yeah.
And I mean, I put in my 11-year-old daughter, like, and this is the way that I grew up too, your teammates count on you to be there. That is why you are a team, So when you have practices, when you have games, when you have meetings, like those are all things that you are responsible for being at. And, especially being the face of the organization, that is on you to be there. And I mean, that's what I tell, when my 11-year-old, might not be in the mood to go to a softball practice, Liv, you're part of this team and you need to be there. Like this is your responsibility and you cannot let your teammates down. And, to sign $1 million of contracts and just up and say, I don't feel like playing, I think is a little irresponsible.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that might be the, unpopular opinion. And I've seen, some takes on Twitter, commenting, being like, well, it's his right. It's not, though. He has a contract that states he has to play in games. I mean, I don't get it. Like,
and it's not a case of somebody's died in the family or something.
Right, like bereavement. Yeah,
he's not on bereavement because they would have come out and said that. They would have said he's on bereavement leave, and everyone's like, oh, okay, non-story. We'll worry about it when he comes back.
Like when the difference, and I know, like we were talking before the show, like the Dennis Rodman thing. Mm-hmm. He still showed up to games.
Oh yeah,
and if he didn't, you bet Jordan would have been on his ass. I just don't understand. Like, I don't get, like, me, let alone I as a coach, coaching CYO with basketball, and me only being 33 years old, and when I haven't coached the last 2 years, but when I coached the most recent year, I was only 31. That's 12-ish years of separation between me and the kids that I'm coaching. And, like, when I played CYO, I worked hard. Like like we as a team were like, we want to win games, and I have these kids that I coach, and I'm like, that I can't get them to, I can't connect with them at a level of like, like we need to work hard so we can win, and we have to balance that with goofing around. Let alone like, here's a man who is a successful NBA basketball player who now just ups and like, deuces, I'll be back when I'm back.
And it's not even in a comical way, like when it was, what was it, Tim Duncan's last year, where Greg Popovich listed him on the will not play list because old.
Right.
This is just one of those situations that the reasoning for his departure is what everybody is really honing in on. If he took time off because he needed a break from what's going on with the social issues, okay, that's one thing.
Sure.
But it's another when now this footage has shown up about him celebrating at a party, and going off the ESPN article I'm reading, the league's, I'm going to quote it, the league's COVID-19 guidelines forbid players from going to clubs, bars, and lounges. They also ban players from attending social gatherings of more than 15 people.
And I should add to that, Coach brought up the James Harden situation, which was from the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Harden got fined $50,000 for that.
Right.
You don't think that when the event, and it's not a question of if, it's a question of when, the NBA finishes their investigation with this, if it comes out that it was over the weekend, how many figures you figure that's going to be?
Well, I read it. So it's 18.6% of his daily salary.
Well, that's
deducted, plus the games that he missed, full game checks.
Oof.
So lots of cash.
It's a lot of cash. So
that 18, by the way, is the rest of the year.
Right.
Right. It's a lot of cash, and it's a lot of questions to ask, especially for somebody who is the face of a franchise.
And it is very outspoken about issues and social issues. That
right.
Like Ken said, if this was a case of he just needed a mental break because of what's going on in the United States socially, I understand.
No problem.
Get that. Totally understand. I think us as a country were pretty much all there by the end of Wednesday night last week. But that being said, with as outspoken as he is, I draw a question to it and kind of doubt it because you're very outspoken. You went and you posted on Instagram how you weren't going to do media interviews, and then you're doing media interviews and just how outspoken you are. If it is the case that you're sitting out because you needed a mental break because of what happened, why haven't you done anything? Why haven't you said anything? Why hasn't it come out that you've been in contact with somebody?
Like to just up and say, because Boston and Orlando were set to play that night in Boston, and they had and I was texting you guys that Boston had maybe it's not Boston or Orlando, but I know it was Boston, that it might have been Charlotte, that the team had walked off the court.
Yeah. And
that they weren't going to play. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, this is a nationally televised game that's about to go on. They're not going to play. And, they came together, I think the captains talked and decided to play, for the betterment of, being a distraction to what's going on in the world. And then when the thing went down in the bubble and the teams opted not to play, it was a team decision. Everybody said, all right, we're going to make this stance. If it is for the social reason, then make a statement, have a press release.
Sure.
Have you and your, the organization come out and say something, but to up and leave, my problem is leaving your teammates. That's the shit that I can't understand. We grew up with Mark Messier, right?
Sure.
As the captain of the Rangers,
sure.
Switching sports. He would have died for the players on that team. He literally would have taken pucks to the face to win games. We grew up with Patrick Ewing, a leader in all sense of the words. Now, was he the tough, stout leader? No, but did you want to mess with him in the locker room? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
But you also had Charles Oakley, who was the voice of reason in that locker room, who was the enforcer, and Anthony Mason, those tough guys. You have this situation where you have to rely on your teammates to be there. And with Spencer Dinwiddie going down for the year now, and, only playing 72 games, these games matter. And for you to miss a week of games, that's 6 games that you're missing.
And I dug up his information on Spotrac.com. Because of the clauses and the bonuses he can hit with the way his contract is, a number of those are contingent on him playing 60-plus games. Now, in a normal season, he'd have some leeway because they play a few more games. But because it's only 72, he's got, and they've already played 11 games, he's got no leeway. If things hold out the way they are, he's losing out on about $625,000 this year.
I mean, it's just but the locker room,
Well, that's another factor that's got to get thrown in because whatever the reason he did leave, the fact is he's gone. Now, if he took the time off to get his head right for social issues, okay.
Right. But even still, though, like, talk to your teammates.
Well, that's the whole thing, because nobody knows what's going on.
Right.
And nobody's saying anything.
We're getting a lot of smoke screen coming out of the Nets press organization. And the fact that nobody has came out to say anything right now. I know the NBA is
or press anything.
Well, and the only thing I've heard is that Kevin Durant was asked about it, and he just simply said, "We've got his back."
Well, that's one thing to have your players back, but
that's what he's saying publicly.
But it's a public thing. But you have to look at he's breaking protocol if this video is true. Like, that's, for me, that's the biggest takeaway.
Right. Yeah.
That, okay, you did leave. Okay, you have your reasons. If they are true and they are for the social mental break, I have no issue with that. But what I do have an issue with is, okay, if you're saying that, but you're caught on video partying.
Yeah.
And not really following the protocols which your job has set you to do, and then you're going to try coming back when you feel like it, and now, since you've been around other people, the heightened chance of exposure, and we can get into the whole science of that, is such a red flag for your organization that Brooklyn and the NBA have to investigate this thoroughly. And they cannot do a slap on the wrist if he is found breaking protocol.
Taking 18.6% of the daily salary.
But you almost have to do even a more steeper penalty.
Well,
you have to, because what you're doing is you have to have precedent. You have to have something established, because if one player gets away with doing something, this opens up a door for somebody else.
Well, I mean, the other problem is, too, is like you talk about, like, the Nets were big on culture, right? Like, and they sacrificed all that to sign Kevin Durant and, and Kyrie. Like, that was the big thing. Like, they were with Kenny Atkins. They were, hey, we're rebuilding culture. We're putting a winning culture in mind. Like, yada yada yada. And then they let all those players go, minus Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Jared Allen. And then they bring in those two, these two superstars, and you fire Atkinson. You bring in Steve Nash to be a first-time head coach of this team with Mike D'Antoni, obviously a veteran experience, but like to let the players run the assignment, like that was the problem in New York, And when they brought in Phil Jackson, it was that they, I can't remember the agency, but whoever, like the Knicks had like 9 players who were all signed by the same agency, and they were literally just running the Knicks.
That's the problem.
And Phil Jackson came in and said, no, traded J.R. Smith for nothing, traded Iman Shumpert for nothing, got rid of Melo, got rid of all those guys who were part of that agency to try and break it down to rebuild the culture. That's a problem. Like, to me, like if I was in the organization and I'm seeing and I know Kyrie and KD have a very different relationship, and they are they're very close. I mean, obviously, Durant, had that interview with Charles Barkley, the infamous interview where he, didn't give him any acknowledgement and one-word answers and was very short. And, the guys off the air made fun of him, made fun of Barkley for it. And so I can understand them being cool with it. But like, if I'm Karis LeVert, if I'm Spencer Dinwiddie, who's now down for the year, if I'm Jared Allen, if I'm DeAndre Jordan, if I'm these guys watching this from the sideline being like, all right, he left for a week.
What's to stop him from doing it again?
What the fuck, right?
Yeah. That's the problem you have now. And we know with Kyrie's track record where he's been with other teams, he has been a distraction for teams.
Yeah.
We saw in Cleveland, he couldn't play with LeBron, needed to go out. Went to Boston.
I'm going to come back.
I'm going to come back. He willingly told that fan base. And he was the star of that team, and he couldn't play there. So now he's in Brooklyn, where he is in the biggest media market in the world. He does not have that luxury for room for error.
He's lucky he's not a Knick, is what I'm going to say. And I'm going to get unpopular again. I guess Pat and I tag team, and I'm the heel now. Because he's lucky he's not a Knick. Because if he was a Knick, this would be everywhere. He would be getting ripped to shreds.
Let's say this would have opened every sports talk show in the city on Monday morning.
You want to talk about his mental health. Well, let's hear you get talked about by MSG, ESPN, Fox Sports. I'm sure probably Yes Network would have picked up on it.
Yeah.
SNY would have been talking about it. All these media outlets, front page of the Post, front page of the Times, the Daily News. it would have been everywhere. USA Today would have been talking, everywhere would have been talking about. His face would have been everywhere. You want to talk about a check-in then.
Well, that's what he's going to be facing now, because the longer he is gone, and if this video turns out to be true, that the story that he allegedly gave about why he left turns out to be false, the public backlash that the NBA and Brooklyn are going to have to deal with, I don't know if they're ready for.
I disagree with you, because I bet you it just gets swept under the rug. Because they did with Los Angeles. Let's talk about the Clippers and the culture that they had there with Kyrie and Paul George. Kawhi and Paul George being able to not have to live within 45 minutes of the practice facility. Kawhi was able to drive in from San Diego, was often late to practice, created a lot of tension in the locker room with some of the stars or among the other players. Do we talk about that now?
Well, we don't, but I think that's a different case scenario.
But it's not, though, because here we are in a major media market with two stars that are getting special treatment who now we don't talk about at all. Now, all right, I guess it is different in the sense of the COVID thing.
Yes.
But James Harden, that's gone too.
Well, that's because he, for what he went through, did his time, paid his fine, and it hasn't been an issue since.
But what I'm saying is that it's going to get pushed under the rug, though, because Brooklyn's a secondary market.
See, I don't think it's going to be honest. I hope that I'm wrong, but I hope I'm right about this, because, well, like I said, you need to do precedents about this. And like I say, if it does get swept under the rug, I feel that, in my opinion, the NBA has opened up a huge can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
Because if this video turns out to be true, like if he gets exonerated,
fine.
Okay, fine, story's done. But if this turns out to be true, and you willingly have now violated the protocol set, how are you going to justify that to the rest of the players in your league?
Right.
How?
So why I think it will, though, is because they're a secondary market. They even right now, as hot as this story is, right now, what is everybody talking about? They're still talking about the national championship game that was a blowout in college football. They're still talking about the fact that the Knicks are losers of three, at least in the New York media. They're talking about how R.J. Barrett is the most inconsistent player in the NBA right now in his second year and can't find a jump shot. That's what the New York media is talking about right now. Secondary is Kyrie.
I will give you that, but I think that the longer he's gone, I think that's going to start picking up steam. That's my thing, because
the only thing that helps is they play each other tomorrow.
Right, and the fact that he's missing that game,
and it's on ESPN.
Yeah, on ESPN.
That's what's going to spark that flame.
Yep.
That I think that if he doesn't come out with a press release, or the Nets don't come out with an official press release, not the one that Steve Nash kind of, in my opinion, blew off.
Done.
The fact that if they don't have something concrete, you're now going to have a very high-profile game, because let's face it, they're facing the Knicks, and say what you will, it's still,
and this is the only Knicks ESPN broadcast.
Right. There's a lot of eyes on you. You have to address the situation at hand. You can't just say, well, he's gone, and just kind of sweep it under the rug, because this is a primetime game. And I'm going to say apples to oranges, but this is like when Philly pulled their players almost. You can't duck what's out there on the field.
You can't duck what's out there in front of the eye.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
You
can't dodge that. It's going to be there, because when they're going, okay, well, where's Kyrie? Oh, well, he's not here. Well, why hasn't he been here? And they have to explain that story to a national audience.
Right, which will get asked, because,
yeah,
I mean, they're not going to – it's not like they're not going to not talk about it. It's not something that like the reporters of that, the Bondies and all those guys, they're not going to not ask that question just because they're asked not to.
Right. They have to ask that question.
So I pulled up the New York Post website in their sports section because I was curious. First thing you see, Kyrie Irving party video isn't sitting well with Richard Jefferson. And then I just went over the New York.
Richard Jefferson.
I went over the New York Daily News. First two articles I got are about some soccer player. Other ones about the Mets. And then, right, of course, beautiful design editing. Side by side, one article: Knicks head into first matchup versus Nets, looking like the more stable franchise. And right next to it, NBA to investigate video that appears to show Nets star Kyrie Irving attending birthday bash.
Well, tomorrow what's going to be on. Today, their back pages were not Kyrie.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
Tomorrow is when the flame gets lit. And for Brooklyn and the NBA, they have to put it out quickly. Now, how they do this is they have to be very thorough about that investigation. And like I say, if Kyrie is completely cleared, that's one thing. The fact that if he is caught on video, which is now circulating because it's viral, and hey, this is the digital age we live in, they can't try spinning this when he is willingly violating protocol.
To me, to be fair, it's egregious either way.
Oh, it is.
Because
it completely. It's the fact that he left his team.
You can't abandon.
Yeah,
I can't fathom a world where it's like you get paid to play the game. Like that's the old saying, right? Like you get you pay to practice, you get paid to practice, and then the winning the game or playing the game is like the reward of practicing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and for Allen Iverson, as difficult as it was for practice, like it's because he was playing 47 to 48 minutes a night, getting dumped to the floor. And he didn't want to practice because his body was banged up.
Yeah.
That's okay. Like, you're at least playing in the games.
It's just a different era we live in.
Dude, it's nuts. It's insane.
It is.
I'm 12 years removed from high school kids, and you can't connect with this group of this generation.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It's a whole different animal to deal with. But the major thing, and like I say, with athletes and what they do, that's what I'm saying. It's a whole different ball of wax, whole different animal to deal with. But for this situation, and especially in the era we live in,
social media, baby,
social media and COVID, it's not going away. The fact that these protocols are now being called into question, Brooklyn and the NBA have to address this.
Oh yeah, no, like you said, it's one thing for him to say, "Oh, I need some personal time." Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Get that. If you're photographed, because let's face it, the New York paparazzi is about as rabid as anybody else on the planet. I argue you to find somebody more rabid. You know, it's one thing for him to say, "Oh, I'm going to take some time," and then he's photographed going to some corner, food store picking up lunch or something. That's one thing.
It's one thing.
Okay, I get that, but for him to go, "Oh, for them to come out and say, "Oh, he's taking some personal time," and then you don't hear hide nor hair of him, which is fine. He's taking personal time. He doesn't have to hop on Twitter or Instagram just to explain where he is to us. That's fine. But for the next instance, we see him to go, "Oh, hey, he's taking personal time. He's got some personal stuff going on." Yeah, that personal stuff is him showing up in a club dancing. Not a good look.
Yeah, it's not a good look, and the fact that the Nets are completely dodging this, and the NBA now has to do the investigation, which they, like I say, it's all coming down to precedent. If Kyrie has violated precedent and said one thing and did another, that's a whole ball of wax that they're going to need to deal with, and they have to be swift about it. Because now, if you let him slide, you are going to have that door open that if other players start doing this, and then, God forbid, that we have a spike in COVID, we have a lot of more health concerns because players are seeing this door open, you're going to have a lot of explaining to do that you can't just say, well, and brush your shoulders. You're going to need to address this.
They're going to have to suspend him.
They're going to have to do something.
I don't know how long, but the fines aren't going to be enough.
Exactly.
Because you got some players who are just going to, I can just skip games and violate protocol, and all they're going to hit me is in my wallet. Fuck, I don't care.
The suspension would be, I think, during the quote-unquote testing and incubation phase.
Yeah.
That he would have to be on quarantine. So
yeah, because now whenever he decides to return, he's going to
because, James Harden had 2 weeks or a week and a half that he had to be in quarantine.
Like that, yeah.
So whenever Kyrie says he's coming back, there's so many unanswered questions about this that we all have to watch as fans, and now all the eyes are on the NBA, not for the play, but for how they're going to deal with this situation. Something to keep an eye on as the weeks are moving forward. So definitely hit us up on that hashtag ODPH. Kyrie Irving situation. What are you thinking? Let's have that talk, shall we? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Matt Dream.
This is Julian Hepworth.
I'm Ross Marchuka. And John McBride. And we're Shout Out to Robots. You're listening to
ODPH.
Evidence is blind. Magnets to the tail.
Coming back for the final segment in this edition of the ODPH podcast. Time to round the bases and take the show home, Pad.
Yeah, I got some unfortunate news to pass along. It was announced last week that Hall of Fame manager, legendary baseball coach Tommy Lasorda had passed away at the age of 93. He played for the Brooklyn Dodgers from 1954 to 1955, and he played for the Kansas City Athletics for 1956. He then was a coach for the LA Dodgers from 1973 to 1976, and then he also managed the LA Dodgers from 1976 to 1996. He was a two-time World Series champion in 1981 and then 1988. Was a two-time NL Manager of the Year in 1983 and 1988. And also his number 2 jersey was retired by the Dodgers, and then he was inducted into the 1997 Baseball Hall of Fame. He also won a gold medal for the United States in the 2000 Sydney Olympic Games for baseball. Definitely a huge loss for the sport of baseball. Definitely a one-of-a-kind character. You know, a lot of people remember him for his world title runs. I will most fondly remember him from the All-Star game. I think it was like 2001, where he was third base. He was a third base coach, in a bat. I think a bat had broke. You can look up the clip on YouTube. A bat gets broken, off a swing, foul pitch, a bat breaks, and it goes flying towards Tommy. And Tommy, at the ripe young age of like 70 something at that point, tumbling head over heels, and he pops back up, and he just kind of goes, "Hey, you whippersnapper!" He starts holding the bat like just sorely missed. Definitely one of a kind, and well wishes to his friends and family.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a very charismatic character in baseball, to say the least, and obviously so well associated with the Dodgers. And our deepest condolences out to his family, friends, and fans all over the world. Coach?
There was a national championship game played on Monday.
Was there?
Kind of.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is up your alley. So.
I mean, Alabama absolutely roll tied the Ohio State Buckeyes 52-24. Yeah, I mean, this game was not even close.
Pat, you got those stats?
Yeah, so 52-24. Mac Jones, 36 of 45 for 464 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, averaged 10.3 yards per pass. Justin Fields, 17 of 33 for 194 yards passing, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. The notable stat, though, is Devontae Smith, the wide receiver for Alabama, 12 catches, 215 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jesus Christ.
You missed the most notable stat, that Notre Dame held Alabama to their lowest point total of 32 all season.
True. I might be familiar with that.
So let's just keep that in mind the next time we're like, oh, Notre Dame couldn't hang with the Power 5 conferences, because Alabama was a whole nother level this year. And I was driving into work because I'd listened to the ESPN morning show, and they were talking about how is this the greatest Alabama team, and I was like, interesting. So I went back and I looked at their first round picks from the year before.
Okay.
They lost 2 offensive players, Tua and Ruggs.
Ah.
They returned 9 starters, and obviously, I'm trying to process and wrap my head around the fact that this team won the national title the way that they did, but last year's team was one of Alabama's worst seasons that they've had, arguably in the last 10 years or 15 years that Saban's been head coach.
Yeah.
Tua and Ruggs are the only 2 differences, and this is the greatest team of all time.
You fully believe that?
No, like I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
It doesn't add up. Like, how do you lose Tua, who is arguably one of the greatest college quarterbacks to come through, since Tim Tebow, that type of guy. And Ruggs, who is a good wide receiver, but he obviously isn't Devontae Smith good.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, now this is the greatest team. I would love to see them play the LSU team of last year. That would be a very fun matchup.
That'd be fun.
And other than that, my biggest takeaway from this game is, well, my dreams of Devontae Smith falling to 11 are gone, because he's definitely going to be a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, no question of that.
I mean, I still had hopes when he won the Heisman. I was like, all right, he could still fall to 11 just because he won the Heisman.
To quote WWE, no chance in hell.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he came out and put this performance on.
In the fucking first half.
Yeah, and then all dreams and hopes were slowly poof. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a top 5 pick. And the thing that is the thing that I try and wrap my head around with him is that he did this in this game because the Notre Dame game, all right, I already stated, like, they, besides Kyle Hamilton and Kiramora, they have no other great elite top 25 talent on defense, right? Like, they just don't have it. But here he did it against Sean Wade, who is arguably one of the best cover corners in all of college football. Yeah. And he still couldn't cover him. There was a bubble screen in the first quarter that I was like, oh, they're going to stop him, for like a 6-yard gain. They had him pinned up against the sideline. And then all of a sudden he just clicked on this afterburner and just ran and got another 12 yards. And I'm like, I turned to, Aaron, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, I knew this kid was the real deal after the Notre Dame game. Now I know he is the real deal. Like, if he could go number 1.
Oh, easily.
He's that, like, I
think he's going number 3.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's top 5.
Yeah, I don't think he makes out of top 3.
No,
I think that I don't doubt the Jets taking him at 2 or some team trading with the Jets.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, if the Jets are in a very precarious position right now because with Sam Darnold, and whoever they bring in as head coach, they have options. Because if they feel comfortable with Darnold, you can go get yourself your number 1 wide receiver and be all right. Or, you can trade this pick and let somebody go after Justin Fields or the Zach Taylor out of BYU. So there's a lot at play with this number 2 pick. I love the draft. It's so, like, how fun is that? Like, the Jets literally hold all the chips for this draft this year. Like, normally it's like the number 1 pick. Like, when Cleveland had that number 1 pick, there was a lot of flirting of what they could do.
Yeah.
Like, and then the last few years, the number 1 pick's pretty much been settled.
Right.
The number 1 pick settled again, but number 2 is very, very exciting.
It's the one great thing about the draft is a team can rebuild very quickly.
Oh, and Doug Peterson got fired.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was so much happening going on, too, with playoff football.
We were right. You were wrong. Suck it, Philly. No, I'm just kidding. Not all Philly. Only the Philly fans that were like, it's okay that they lost this game, because apparently it wasn't.
It definitely wasn't, and this is where we're going to see what Philly's really made of.
Yeah.
Because now it's going to be a new era. Whoever's taken over that team, I know that there's been a lot of names already.
Oh, my God. They have 3 interviews lined up already.
You already know what Philly's made of. Cheesesteaks and anger management.
Yeah.
No facts.
And throwing games.
Ooh. Allegedly.
Yeah,
Gotta do the
I'm not fucking throwing allegedly. I saw it. Well, I saw what I saw.
But
that can't be unseen.
But coming off the national championship game, though, there's a new name in that top pick contention.
Dude, I mean, if Jacksonville had a quarterback that they were even comfortable with, if they took Devontae Smith 1, I'd be like, okay. It makes sense. But with them with them desperately needing a quarterback and having the decent wide receiver play that they had last year plus James Robinson, like, Trevor Lawrence makes sense there. Yeah. But then when you flip it and you look at the Jets at 2, you're like, you went out and got Beckman last year, so you have your left tackle. Mm-hmm. You went out and you got you have Darnold already in place on a rookie deal still, so you can go out and get yourself something, right. Or you can trade back and retool your roster through the draft. It's like so many options.
It's so many options, and it's smart for them to really think about because
obviously they have to.
There's so many questions that the top echelon teams in the draft are really going to have to sit there and analyze. And for Alabama to put that statement game on, Justin Fields, I mean, did his draft stock slip? Did it stay put? I mean,
stayed the same.
He was hurt. The funny thing that I read was Jamar Chase out of LSU. Somebody said today, like, did his stock get hurt by not playing? Mm-hmm. And the commentator wrote back and said no. Well, yes, it did, because Devontae Smith jumped him.
Yeah.
Waddle, arguably, prior to the injury, and then possibly, who knows, the obviously came up limp every time he ran.
Yeah.
Not smart to play in that game, but that's different topic.
Different topic.
Arguably, did he jump him? Possibly. And Kyle Pitts, who, out of Florida, who, as a tight end or wide receiver could have jumped him too. So, like, and I mean, I know that the commenter was like, go out and, go watch Chase's highlight tapes and, it will show you why they didn't jump his stock. But it's like, it kind of did to me because I'm talking about what's fresh in my mind right now and those things are fresh. And not even to mention the kid out of Minnesota, the other wide receiver. Oh my God, I forgot about him. Like, this is a deep wide receiver class, and the kid from Purdue.
Yeah,
the kid from Purdue sat too. All right, so I'm not as happy about losing Devontae Smith, but I've had my calm down moment here because I forgot about those guys. So all right.
Because now the offseason starts for a lot of college programs and for the NFL. So
I miss college football already.
This is what happens when you get your national champion. And Alabama is still rolling that tide one more time.
Dude, they are going to be good next year, too. They're already
top recruiting class.
Yeah, top recruiting class.
Fuck. Wash, rinse, repeat.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Saban era right now, so unless somebody can knock them off.
They were talking about, I mean, just to get my Notre Dame bar in real quick because I just want to. My little the Notre Dame show that I like to listen to was talking about how like Notre Dame's going to recruit in cycles. So they're going to base everything off of 4-year increments. They can't compete with Alabama. They can't retool the way that Alabama and not LSU, but Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, like how they keep having top 3 5-star prospects coming every single year that they literally just, a guy leaves, plug and play. You know, like they have to go out and kind of build like how like a mid-major in college basketball does, where they go out and they get one really good recruiting class, have their lumps freshman, sophomore, and junior year, but then that senior year they've been playing together for 4 straight years and they just make a run to the tournament.
Yeah.
That's what Notre Dame needs to do.
It's a lot of headlines to keep watching, so definitely have to stay tuned for that.
Miss it.
I know you missed it already, but I got something that's coming back that will cheer you up.
Oh, tell me.
And that is the NHL is back Wednesday.
That doesn't make me feel better.
How dare you say that? Because the Blue Shirt Nation is going to stand up. We have a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, another year of rebuilding.
Oh, you stop. You bite your tongue. We're ready to go now. We're ready to go.
Listen, the Rangers have just been disappointing me, Ken.
Disappointing, but we have a new number 1 draft pick in town. Lafreniere is ready to rock and roll. The lineup
made the roster.
Yeah. Oh, he's number 1 draft picks. I mean, they usually do, and he's definitely looking like he's going to be the guy, like early and offset. So I'm excited to see Shedderkin is back. So I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be in talk for best goalie of the year, but they're going to contend. And
is it Benajab?
You know, Mika's still there. The Kreider is re-upped. I mean, they got the tools right now that they could make a run.
So we also got to give well wishes to former New York Ranger Henrik
Wallingquist,
who needs open heart surgery.
Yeah, that's a tough
I think he already had it.
I
think the surgery.
It was coming up, but we haven't heard anything since. But obviously, our positive energy and thoughts go right out to him. So
absolutely,
obviously to our king. But for what the Rangers have lined up, I mean, Panarin is going to be doing Panarin things, and I mean, it's going to be exciting to watch. Obviously, this season is going to be a little different. We're going to be having the 4 divisions. So in the North, which I guess is getting the hashtag the We the North division.
Boo.
I still allow it. You got the Montreal Canadiens, Ottawa Senators, Winnipeg Jets, Edmonton Oilers, Calgary Flames, Vancouver Canucks, and Ottawa?
Yes.
Did I say that twice already? Because I couldn't tell if I said that or Montreal.
North is Calgary, Edmonton, Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, and Winnipeg.
That's why Pad's got me. Who else we got in the East, Pad?
Boston, Buffalo, Jersey, the Islanders, the Rangers, Philly, and Pittsburgh, and Washington.
I'm excited about that one. Central.
Carolina, Chicago, Columbus, Dallas, Detroit, Florida, Nashville, and Tampa Bay.
And one more left up.
Anaheim, Arizona, Colorado, Los Angeles, Minnesota, San Jose, St. Louis, and Vegas.
Yes. So it's going to be a little shorter season than we're used to. Trade deadline is April 12th. The Seattle Kraken, the new franchise.
Hashtag release the Kraken.
Yes, is going to be drafting in July.
I'm just saying, I don't know if the folks at the PR team or whatever team for Seattle can hear us. If you don't get Liam Neeson to record you some sort of line saying release the Kraken, you're dropping the ball.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
They're going to be doing some fun stuff for that. And obviously, like we say, they're going to build off the success of last year. So I'm excited to see hockey back. I mean, obviously, if it's the Rangers are looking good, it's going to be a good time. Playoffs are supposed to start around May 8th, and they're going back to the 16 best 7 4-round format. So this should be kind of interesting to see.
So if I saw it correctly, because when does the season start? Like, there are games tonight?
They start Wednesday,
so
as we record.
Starting Wednesday, there's like 116 straight days of hockey.
God bless it. AHL, depending on where you are, obviously there's some other rules going on. Coach is just getting bitter. We're just making him angry here. That's what we try doing.
Did you see that press release that the Devils released?
No, I didn't.
Oh, they said, the New Jersey Devils have assigned 9 players to the Binghamton Devils.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Just a slap in the face.
It is what it is, but you know what? I am just happy to see hockey back. I'm hoping for a healthy season for everybody, and we get back to like some kind of sense of normalcy. Blue Shirt Nation, stand the puck up. Let's go. And obviously, for more information, we'll just plug NHL.com. So you can get all your hockey fix starting this week. So Rangers kick off Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so.
Yes,
against
that is
those
correct.
Islanders. So definitely be locked in for that. And to close out, we got a little bit of UFC action. Now, there's going to be a fight night, but it's going to be on the ABC network.
Oh,
so we're
big
going
time.
network broadcast
Big
TV. Very fun card is going on. You're in the middleweight division. You have Joaquin Buckley, who is known for doing that holding, spinning kick with the knockout of the year last year. He's back in action. Your co-main event is a welterweight classic if you're an old school fight fan. Carlos Condit, the natural born killer. God bless him. Amazing fighter. Taking on another amazing fighter in the immortal Matt Brown. This one is for old school fight fans. And let's see what happens.
And ABC. I mean, they've been on Fox before.
Well, they've been on Fox, but this is the first time.
Disney, baby.
Yeah,
this is straight Disney. This is a Disney associated ABC.
Exactly. So this has a lot of weight to it. And obviously, if they're going to be doing it on ABC, we don't know if they're going to be doing any more going down the road. But
might be a test.
It's going to be a test to kind of see what we have coming up. So that being said, your main event is a featherweight bout between the one and only Maxi Baby, Max Holloway, and Calvin Kattar. Any feelings on this fight from the panel?
It's on network TV, so there's going to be fireworks.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they go out and put on a performance. I mean, obviously, I was thinking about this the other day, like things that I kind of miss, like NBC Sunday afternoon basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just missed that. So maybe with everything going on, like a Saturday ABC card once a month where it's like a pay-per-view, caliber card would be kind of sick. I mean, I know the UFC is a $1 billion company now compared to when it was with Fox and Spike and everything. So like they don't need to be putting on pay-per-view level cards on TV for free necessarily, but I still think it'd be a lot of fun.
Well, and ABC has to show more than just the 8 hours of the game shows they show on weekend nights.
Yeah,
Saturday
Big
night,
facts.
Saturday night and Sunday night is specifically reserved for ABC game shows.
I think it's wicked cool because like it's something different that obviously ESPN without college football on Saturday night, like that's a big void because I mean I would normally watch in a traditional year would watch the Saturday night game on ABC because it's always a big top 25 matchup, but obviously with COVID and everything it was a little bit different this year, so I didn't watch as many top of the ABC games at night, but this will be very cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see this. I like Max in the main event. This is going to be a scrap fight, too. I mean,
Max kind of needs it, right?
Max needs to win this. I think a little more so. Well, if Kattar gets in this, he's going to be in the contender talk, like number one contender talk. For Max, where do you go from here after he's been on a bad streak? But he's always entertaining. This isn't for a belt, so I really think he's going to step up for this. I think he's going to outpoint this. This is going to be a scrap. I'm excited to see it. So let's see what happens on Saturday. And then in between shows, too, because obviously next Saturday is the big Conor McGregor fight.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Let's
taking place
go.
on the 23rd. In between, there is a fight night going on Wednesday night. And that one, your main event is Michael Chiesa versus Neil Magny. That one, I like Chiesa in that one.
Well, how's the card looking Saturday? Because Aaron was asking. My father-in-law asked too, and I said that I don't give a shit about the card because Conor's on. So
the card is actually very, very good.
Oh,
yes.
Bonus.
Yes. To quickly read that off, I know we're going to get into a little more detail next week, so
sure.
We don't have to get picks. Women's flyweight matchup, Jessica Ive taking on Joanne Calderwood. That's going to be a scrap. Your co-main is going to be freaking bananas. Dan Hooker is taking on recently signed from Bellator former champion Michael Chandler.
Ooh.
That's fireworks. And then your main is obviously Dustin Poirier taking on Conor McGregor.
Everyone will be asleep by then.
Yeah. And so this has got a lot of stuff going on. Even in the prelims, Khalil Roundtree's fighting too, so he's always entertaining to watch. And just kind of have to wait and see how this all shakes up. But yeah, the fight is looking good. UFC's coming back strong to kick off 2021, so definitely stay tuned for that. We'll definitely deep dive into the Conor fight next week. But before we say goodbye, we have to give our predictions, not our locks and leaps, but our predictions for the NFL wild card action this weekend. So, Pat, you got the schedule lined up?
Yeah, so starting on Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox from Lambeau Field, you have the LA Rams taking on the Green Bay Packers. And then at 8:15 on NBC, you have the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Buffalo Bills from Bills Stadium in Orchard Park. Then Sunday at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Time on CBS, you have the Cleveland Browns taking on the Kansas City Chiefs from Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. And then at 6:40, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the New Orleans Saints on Fox from the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans.
Coach, who you got?
What are we doing? Locks and leaps then? Just one pick and one?
Just
okay.
your pick.
All right. I'm going to go. Buffalo is going to be my stamp of approval. I guarantee that I definitely think that they're going to win. And I think Tampa Bay is going to upset New Orleans at home.
Pat?
I think Kansas City's going to win against Cleveland, and it ain't going to be close.
All right, so I am going to say the Rams get blown out of the water at Green Bay.
Oh, okay. You were going to throw me there for a second.
Yeah. No, I think that they get definitely blown out. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be too much for him. He's not worried about Jalen Ramsey. The only question is...
he needs to worry about Aaron Donald.
He has to worry about Aaron Donald. If he can get enough space from him, he'll be okay. In the other matchup, the old man face-off, I like Drew Brees. But I think this is going to be a shootout of some kind of weird, magical, epic proportion. Because I think that if they can have a matchup of Drew Brees taking on Aaron Rodgers, or they can have a matchup of Tom Brady taking on Aaron Rodgers, that's the kind of where the cards are going to kind of set with this. Because I honestly think that this is going to be a high-scoring game. I like the over in this, but I like New Orleans taking this just at the buzzer, shall we say. Flipping it over to the AFC, I like Kansas City. I would love to see Cleveland pull off the miracle upset, but can they run the ball and keep Patrick Mahomes off the field? That's the question. For that long, I don't think so. Can they hang with him for a half? I think they can, but Kansas City's been known to drop 28 in their sleep. Can Cleveland match that firepower? I don't think so. I'm rooting for Cleveland, don't get it wrong, but I think Kansas City wins this one outright. And then obviously, the Bills hosting the Ravens. This is going to be a very tough matchup, I think a lot tougher than people think. Can the Bills keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket? That's the ultimate question. Can they really stop that run? They struggled all year with it. I feel they can, because I think if they can keep Lamar in the pocket, they can win in a shootout. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be a blowout by any epic proportion. This could be a 4-point difference. But I do like the Bills to take it. Not saying with the homer pick, but I feel that they got enough firepower that if they can just slow down Lamar Jackson's running, they can win this outright.
Well, Baltimore better prepare for this cold weather, because I'm looking at weatherchannel.com. Buffalo, they're calling for snow showers in various degrees Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And the low on Saturday night, 30 degrees.
And the one thing to factor in, too, fans are allowed back in the stadium Saturday night.
It's supposed to, and Green Bay is going to get chilly too.
Yeah,
and I've been to Bill Stadium in December. It's fucking cold up there.
It's cold, but the scariest thing that people don't realize, unless you're part of Bill's Mafia, how early that tailgate going to start.
It's already started.
Exactly. Those fans are going to be absolutely bananas in that stadium. That they're going to sound like 50,000 in there. So Baltimore is definitely going to have their hands full. The Bills have their hands full, so we'll have to see what happens coming up this weekend. So that all being said, the music you heard on this episode of the ODPH is that of Brian Wolf of Fair City Fire. Now Brian has got a concert going on Wednesday night, Pat. Mm-hmm. Do you know what he's playing?
Beatles?
Yes. He is doing a catalog of Beatles covers via his Patreon. So where do you find out about all this?
OchoDuroParlayHour.com.
Right on. You head on over to the music section. You can check out everything going on with Brian, everything going on with Second Suitor, Shout at the Robots, Floodlands, Tom Jolu, all the great music you hear on the ODPH. You can also swing by the directory, check out the friends of the show, such as Dragon Master Games, where we are going to be hanging out for the Twitch stream of the live reactions to UFC 257.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be a fun night.
Yeah.
You can also check out organizational links supporting Black Lives Matter. You can also check out all the amazing pod groups we are in via their Podchaser pages, because I say this once, I say this 1,000 times, and it is fact. If you are in a pod group and you're not on Podchaser with your group, you're not in a pod group. Sorry, just putting it out there. So definitely shout out to Pod Nation. Shout out to the Legion Independent Podcast. Shout out to Alternate Reality Radio. Shout out to the aPODalypse. And, of course, shout out to hashtag 607 Podcast and our friends over at 8122 Productions. Because they got a lot of stuff going on, and Big Natty Cool still on Twitter pad.
Oh, boy.
He's still on there. So definitely shout out to Rich Ron, Mike C., and the rest of the gang over there doing a lot of big things.
Big Natty Cool and Aaron meeting. That will be very fun.
They have been talking about that on their show.
Oh, shit.
So I'm just saying, if Aaron has not listened, I can give her the Patreon hookup.
I've tried to prepare her for what is Big Daddy Cool.
It has been a hot topic on there.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So just be forewarned.
I'm just glad Cyborg or one of the other, women fighters aren't fighting.
Yeah.
That, Big Natty would be fun to.
Yes.
Because that is what makes shit very uncomfortable.
Well, the fact he has a live mic is always uncomfortable.
Sure.
So the fact you get him behind a Patreon wall, because $1 gets you in the door, $3 gets you a comfy seat at the table, and Lord knows what the hell he's going to say on Love is Scary. That is all I can allowed to talk about on there. So patreon.com/8122 Productions for more info on that. All of that, plus links to our TeePublic store. So if you want to get some ODPH swag, I believe there is a sale going on this week. So we'll be posting about that on our social media, where you can find that and so much more at OchoDuroParlayHour.com. That's all I got for this week. So for your coach, my coach, the coach, Coach Duffy.
Good night and good luck.
For the one and only Padawan J.
Brian Cashman, quit fucking around and re-sign DJ LeMahieu, goddammit.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. See you next time.